Chapter 1124. Previously, Yang Dingtian's Yang spirit sword that was close to the Emperor grade was gold in color, and the newly forged Yin spirit sword that was close to the Emperor grade was blue in color. Both swords were translucent. But now, after the two swords merged into one and became an Emperor grade spirit sword, it became completely transparent and colorless. If one didn't feel it when holding it, it would seem like there was nothing. A Chao spirit sword no longer had any Shen Qi. But now, it had a half-god spirit sea spirit crystal that was filled with dense Shen Qi. Of course, the most important thing was that it had a complete sea of Qi. When the Shen Qi was depleted, it could absorb Shen Qi like a human and recover its battle Shen Qi. So in conclusion, Yang Dingtian's spirit sword was fully recovered and became even stronger. 10,000 swords returned to origin. Yang Dingtian ordered and controlled the spirit sword to use its spirit skill. As expected, it didn't move. Fly. Yang Dingtian controlled the spirit sword with his mind again and it still didn't move. Don't worry, this result was within Yang Dingtian's expectations. Because the two swords were only merged physically and they were still in the state of yin and yang. No one could control the other. So the spirit sword was completely useless and had no fighting power. It was just an empty Emperor grade spirit sword. Of course, if Yang Dingtian used it to fight, in terms of Shen Qi and sharpness, it would be invincible. But the spirit sword was temporarily lost. It required Yang Dingtian and Demon Fox High Priest to write a spirit sword version of the great yin-yang skill and then control the Naga royalty spirit sword to use it and baptize the spirit sword. At that time, the powerful Naga royalty spirit sword would return and become even stronger. It would become a real Chaos Emperor grade spirit sword. After Yang Dingtian finished forging the empty shell Emperor grade spirit sword, he left the yin-yang mirror and returned to Cloud Sky City. At this time, Demon Fox High Priest had been waiting in the depths of the energy prison for a long time and the energy array was already prepared. Why was she in the energy prison? Because it was quiet here and the energy field was stable enough. It was the most suitable place to enter deep meditation. In fact, the Fox Grand Priest had even taken off her clothes. However, Yang Dingtian was no longer as embarrassed as before when he faced her beautiful and alluring body. This group of people had completely exceeded the desires of men and women. The Demon Fox Grand Priest took the soul sword from Yang Dingtian's hands. Her beautiful eyes were filled with amazement as she said in a trembling voice, "Oh my God, what a beautiful sword. It's actually completely transparent." Then, she took a gorgeous bloody black gold sword from the side and began to use the two swords to hack at each other. Whoosh! Almost silently, the bloody black gold sword in the Grand Priest Demon Fox's left hand broke into two. The Fox Demon Grand Priest did not seem to be satisfied. She held onto Yang Dingtian's Emperor grade soul sword and slashed it continuously. It was as if he was cutting straw, cutting the gorgeous bloody black gold sword into countless pieces. Yang Dingtian could not help but ask, "Miss Fox Demon, where did you get this sword?" The Fox Demon said, "This is my sword." Yang Dingtian took a look. It was not her sword. There was the Fox Demon Grand Priest's unique insignia on the sword hilt. He was speechless. He could not help but ask, "If you cut your own sword like that, what will you use in the future?" The Fox Demon Grand Priest said, "It doesn't matter. You can use the mystic fire to reforge it for me." That was true. However, everyone's weapon should be something they loved. To many people, it was even the other half of their lives. Was it really good to ruin one's weapon like that? Next, after keeping the Fox Demon Grand Priest's broken sword, the two of them began to talk about the main topic. The Fox Demon Grand Priest activated the energy barrier. This energy barrier spun rapidly. Yang Dingtian and the Fox Demon Grand Priest relaxed all of their spiritual defenses. Then, the Fox Demon Grand Priest entered her own spiritual world. Then she began to guide Yang Dingtian in. In this rapidly spinning energy barrier, Yang Dingtian relaxed all of his defenses and fell into a deep sleep very quickly. Then, he felt his spiritual energy shuttling back and forth continuously. It was as if he was shuttling through a space-time tunnel. Suddenly, a door opened. The Fox Demon Grand Priest's beautiful face was revealed. She extended her hand towards him. Yang Dingtian walked through the door and instantly entered the Fox Demon Grand Priest's meditation world. Just like that, layer by layer, the two of them continued to sleep and wake up in the spiritual illusion world. They entered the deepest level of the meditation world. Here, it was still a familiar and comfortable room. It was almost exactly the same as the environment in the real world. Then, in the deepest level of the meditation world, the two of them began to write the soul sword version of the great yin-yang technique. They were about to enter the most difficult and complicated work again. But luckily, they had already completed this work once. The second time, it should be much, much easier. Of course, this required Yang Dingtian to completely memorize the code of the fourth stage of the pig-slaying swordsmanship, the great yin-yang technique. And when Yang Dingtian was researching the realm of gods, he used the code of the pig-slaying swordsmanship. Because this was the world's most outstanding martial arts civilization code, this code was deeply engraved in Yang Dingtian's mind. Of course, in this way, the great yin-yang technique would be completely open to the Fox Demon Grand Priest. But at this point it didn't matter anymore. Even if the Fox Demon Grand Priest memorized the entire code, she wouldn't be able to write the scroll of the great yin-yang technique. Because her celestial qi cultivation was completely insufficient. She wouldn't be able to support the energy required by the scroll. Moreover, without learning the first three stages, even if there was the fourth stage, it would be completely useless. Of course, Yang Dingtian still had to keep the most important greater space technique a secret. Just like that, the two of them began to devote themselves wholeheartedly to writing the new scroll. Time passed by day. In less than 4 days, Queen Poisa and Vulture had already returned to the ruins of the Devil Capital. "Mother!" Queen Poisa shouted when they arrived at the palace of the Sea Serpent Empire. The Sea Serpent Empress immediately appeared and her gaze fell on the ice jade coffin in front of Poisa. Poisa stepped forward and opened the coffin, revealing the ice spirit's beautiful and flawless body. Vulture couldn't help but exclaim in surprise, "Wow, she looks very similar to Dongfang Bingling." Queen Poisa said, "The spirits of these heaven and earth mystic fires are originally formless. She can transform into anyone's appearance. Of course, once she transforms, she can't change her appearance. She will look like this for the rest of her life." At that time, this ice spirit read the image in Yang Dingtian's mind, so she turned into Dongfang Bingling. The Sea Serpent Empress stepped forward and felt the energy level of the ice spirit's body. The highest cultivation level was once at the peak of the saint level, but the talent of the body is even higher. The Sea Serpent Empress said, "It can almost carry all of my energy. This is indeed the body that suits me the most in the world." Then, the Sea Serpent Empress injected a stream of spiritual energy into the ice spirit's brain and said, "As expected, it is a brain energy body formed after devouring the souls of countless people. However, the soul that belonged to the demon spirit fire has been completely destroyed by Yang Dingtian. It is a completely empty body. It is very perfect." With that, the Sea Serpent Empress suddenly drilled into the body. The entire process of possession was very, very simple. She just had to enter. Then, in the next quarter of an hour, the ice spirit in the ice jade coffin slowly opened her beautiful eyes. The perfect body of the ice spirit had recovered. She began to try to move her hands and feet. Her soul energy first controlled her entire brain, and then her brain controlled her entire body through her nerves. A few minutes later, her limbs and body began to feel inch by inch. After her entire body had completely regained consciousness, the Sea Serpent Empress stood up from the ice jade coffin and walked out slowly. Originally, the ice spirit's body was sparkling and translucent, almost without any blood. After being possessed by the Sea Serpent Empress, she immediately gained a sense of majesty and coquettishness. Her beautiful face became tender and alluring, captivating one's soul. She stretched out her hands, and Poisa took out a brocade dress and helped her mother put it on. Suddenly, the Sea Serpent Empress looked at Poisa and said, "Daughter, what are you going to do in the future?" Queen Poisa asked, "What do you mean?" The Sea Serpent Empress said, "Don't think that I can't tell your relationship with Yang Dingtian." Poisa said, "I just want to live with him." The Sea Serpent Empress said, "But there will be no result if you two are together." Poisa said, "Is it because of Naga Shuang? She has nothing to do with me at all. She has the bloodline of a fallen black dragon." The Sea Serpent Empress said, "It's not because of Naga Shuang. In fact, she and Yang Dingtian will not have a result. Once they mate, Naga will lose most of her power to transform Yang Dingtian's body. She will split her cultivation energy equally. Naga is extremely greedy for energy. She will definitely not bear to part with it." Poisa said, "Then why did you say that there will be no result between him and me?" The Sea Serpent Empress said, "Because once you and he combine, a new Naga will be born. He will no longer allow a new Naga to be born." Vulture said, "But he already has a child with the mermaid Queen Violets. One little Western paradise, one mermaid empire, and one human kingdom. The 3 demigod descendants are all Yang Dingtian's children, and they are in an absolute balance. Therefore, he really won't allow a 4th. Poisa was silent for a moment before saying, "Furthermore, even though I keep saying that Naga Shuang has nothing to do with me, he has already avoided any intimacy with me. However, I don't care. When I said that we would live together, I meant that we would just live together. Nothing would happen. We would just treat each other as family." The Sea Serpent Empress said, "But you have to inherit my Sea Serpent Empire." Poisa said, "Mother, where is the Sea Serpent Empire now?" The Sea Serpent Empress said, "Just because there isn't one now doesn't mean there won't be one in the future." Poisa did not argue. She only shook her head and said, "Let's go. It's a long journey. We have to go back." Time passed quickly. 8 days had passed, and the time for the battle with the Demon King was coming soon. Yang Dingtian and the Demon Fox High Priest had also woken up from their deep meditation. Chapter 11:25. In fact, in the past 8 days, Yang Dingtian and the Demon Fox Grand Priest had already woken up twice. Writing the Soul Sword version of the Great Yin Yang art was indeed much easier than they had imagined, because both of them already knew the difference between a soul sword and a human. Previously, in the deepest level of meditation, they had spent countless years writing the Sword Soul Simulator and the human version of the 10,000 Swords Return to Origin scroll. Therefore, Yang Dingtian and the Demon Fox Grand Priest were already familiar with this kind of modification. In just 2 days in reality, Yang Dingtian and the Demon Fox Grand Priest had completed the modification of the Great Yin Yang art. Of course, Xiwu Piaoyan also played a part in this. His scroll was simply too outstanding. It used the shortest code to complete the most energy conversion. Therefore, Yang Dingtian and the Demon Fox Grand Priest woke up in just 2 days and wrote the Soul Sword version of the Great Yin Yang art. Of course, Yang Dingtian and the Demon Fox Grand Priest could only complete the Soul Sword version. The two of them did not have enough energy to write the original version of the Great Yin Yang art for humans, because only God knew how much energy was needed to be stored in the scroll to help modify the cultivator's Shen Meridians and Qi Si. The Soul Sword version of the Great Yin Yang technique scroll required much less energy to write. Because the purity of the Emperor-grade Soul Sword's Shen Meridians was much higher than a human's, and the level of its Qi Si was much higher than a human's, and the strength of the Soul Sword's body was much higher than that of a human's. This Emperor-grade Soul Sword could completely rely on its own energy to complete the modification. Because of the extreme Yang attribute of the bloody black gold and the extreme Yin attribute of the mysterious ice gold, the entire Yin-Yang reversal process did not even require Yang Dingtian's Yin-Yang dual mysterious fire. Therefore, in just 2 days, Yang Dingtian completed the modification. Furthermore, the Demon Fox Grand Priest completed the entire spiritual writing of the scroll by herself. However, after waking up, the two of them were dumbfounded as they held the scroll that they had just written. That's right, the Soul Sword could also learn the scroll. As long as the owner and the Sword Soul's mind were connected, the Sword Soul could completely comprehend and learn the soul skill through the owner. However, the current situation was that Yang Dingtian's Soul Sword was an empty shell. A Chao's Sword Soul was still an infant. It was just learning how to speak and was unable to communicate with its master on a deep level, much less learn any soul skills. Moreover, The Naga soul hidden in the soul sword had never appeared again after saving the Naga Shuang from the Empire of Darkness. It was as if it had been dormant forever. This meant that Yang Dingtian's soul swords couldn't do anything and couldn't learn the great Yin Yang art. Yang Dingtian and the fox demon priest did not know whether to laugh or cry. This was actually a very simple problem, and it was bound to happen. However, both of them were considered wise men, and there was bound to be a mistake. They had both overlooked this point. Then what should he do? There was still a way. Yang Dingtian's consciousness controlled the soul sword to complete the entire great Yin Yang art. That's right, it was exactly the same as last time. Since the sword soul could not do it by itself, then Yang Dingtian would use his consciousness to control the soul sword's Shen Qi and Qi Si to execute the great Yin Yang art, complete the Yin Yang reversal, and finally become the primal chaos attribute. In this way, he had to write another simulator. However, last time, it was Yang Dingtian's consciousness that controlled the soul sword to complete the soul skill. This time, it was Yang Dingtian's consciousness that controlled the soul sword to complete the great Yin Yang art scroll that originally belonged to humans. Of course, Yang Dingtian and the fox demon had already changed it into a soul skill suitable for the soul sword. Therefore, the work was already more than half done. Next, he just had to write another simulator. He didn't even need to write it. He just had to make some modifications to the simulator that he and the fox demon priest had written previously. Hence, Yang Dingtian and the fox demon priest entered the deepest meditation world again and started to modify the original soul sword simulator. The so-called simulator was to use a human's consciousness to control the soul sword to execute the great Yin Yang art scroll. It was still the same analogy, writing a simulator so that the Android phone could run computer games. This time, in the meditation world, the modification of the original simulator was even faster. It was completed in just a day in reality. Then, the simulator code and the soul sword version of the great Yin Yang art were combined together to form a new scroll. It was done. So 3 days later, Yang Dingtian and the fox demon priest woke up for the second time. Yang Dingtian infused his Shen Qi and comprehended a new scroll. Then, he immediately used his consciousness to control this Emperor-grade soul sword and used the soul sword version of the great Yin Yang art to change the attributes of the entire soul sword. The entire process was indeed very smooth and fast. At that time, Yang Dingtian was hovering between life and death when he cultivated the great Yin Yang art. First, he used the Yin Shen flame to baptize his 9 Yang Shen meridians into Yin. Then it was reversed back to Yang. Finally, it completely fused into the primal chaos attribute. During the entire process, Yang Dingtian was in more pain than hell. He almost lost half of his life. Moreover, the entire process was completely deduced by the powerful energy in the scroll. Yang Dingtian no longer had the willpower and consciousness to complete it. As for the Emperor-grade soul sword, whether it was its own energy, Shen meridians, or body, it was much stronger than Yang Dingtian. In addition, these two soul swords had the Yin and Yang dual attribute sword body. Therefore, in just 2 hours, the Yin and Yang reversal was completed. The moment it was completed, the entire soul sword suddenly bloomed with an incomparably bright light. Then, countless powdery energy bodies burst out like resplendent fireworks. Immediately after, Yang Dingtian discovered that the soul sword in his hand had become several times lighter. It had changed from more than 100 jin to only a dozen jin. Moreover, the originally transparent soul sword was now even more transparent to the extreme. It was almost completely invisible in Yang Dingtian's hand. When the Naga royalty demon core's energy was exhausted, it had actually disappeared, leaving only a faint golden shadow. At this moment, the golden shadow of the Naga royalty demon core had completely disappeared and was replaced by the absolutely transparent offshore soul crystal. However, if one looked closely, the interior of the offshore soul crystal would faintly emit a golden light. The Yin and Yang dual attribute soul swords had not only merged into one from the body, but also from the sea of Qi and Shen meridians. Now, Yang Dingtian was holding a real Chaos Emperor-grade soul sword. Yang Dingtian tried to release the 10,000 ancestral swords. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The first to shoot out was the original Naga royalty's 10,000 ancestral swords. It was still a golden Yang attribute sword soul. Then, Yang Dingtian's consciousness changed. What shot out was the blue 10,000 ancestral swords, which was a complete ice attribute sword soul. Almost instantly, the entire energy prison's temperature dropped to the extreme. This Naga royalty's golden 10,000 ancestral swords was much stronger than before. It was almost at the level of a demigod. Finally, Yang Dingtian used his consciousness to control the soul sword and released the 10,000 ancestral swords of the chaos attribute. It looked extremely shocking, but it did not have any lethality. In the future, the darkness celestial flame would be merged into the 10,000 ancestral swords of the chaos attribute. This way, the darkness celestial flame could directly use all its energy and become a demigod-level darkness celestial flame attack. Then Yang Dingtian entered his third meditation. This time, the two of them had to write how to merge the darkness celestial flame into the 10,000 ancestral swords of the chaos attribute. Of course, they could not directly guide it in. This scroll was very simple, but it was also very long. This was because Yang Dingtian and the Demon Fox Grand Priest had to write the code themselves to complete this. They could not borrow any scrolls, nor could they modify the original scrolls. If Shiwu Piaoyan were to write the code to guide the darkness celestial flame into the sword soul of the chaos attribute, a few 100,000 codes would be enough. However, if Yang Dingtian and the Demon Fox Grand Priest were to write it, they would need a few hundred codes. Finally, after 3 days, the two of them finished writing all the codes together. Then the Demon Fox Grand Priest used her spirit and celestial chi to inscribe all the codes into the energy nephrite in the meditation realm. Then, a direct and clumsy scroll was written. At this time, 8 days had passed. Yang Dingtian and the Demon Fox Grand Priest woke up for the third time. Yang Dingtian comprehended the guiding scroll immediately. There were a lot of codes in this scroll, but it was actually very short. In just a moment, he had completely comprehended it. Success or failure depends on this moment. Yang Dingtian said, "Let's go out and experiment." The Demon Fox Grand Priest smiled and said, "For such a simple guiding scroll, we have used the most direct and clumsy method. If we still fail, the two of us should commit suicide." Then, the two of them left the underground prison of Cloud Sky City and returned to the surface. Yang Dingtian took a deep breath. Guide the darkness celestial flame. 10,000 ancestral swords. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Suddenly, countless dark sword spirits shot out from the soul swords. It was different from the Naga royalty sword spirits. Every shadow sword was very thin, like a silk thread. Moreover, it was not even black. It was a kind of void that was extremely dark. It was as if there were countless black holes in the sky. Yang Dingtian and the Demon Fox Grand Priest were extremely excited. They had succeeded. Not only had they successfully forged the Chaos Emperor grade soul swords, they had also completely merged the darkness mysterious flame with the sword spirits. They had killed the Demon King and obtained the final guarantee. Yang Dingtian could not help but say, "Martial Dao wisdom is the #1 productivity." The Demon Fox Grand Priest nodded. This god realm was too mysterious. They could completely rely on their own thoughts to modify the soul swords and martial techniques. It was indeed the god realm. After completing the Emperor-grade soul swords, Yang Dingtian did not stop and immediately headed to the northernmost part of the world of ice and snow. This was because the ancient sea snake empress, who had taken over the ice spirit, was already waiting there. She was also unwilling to enter Cloud Sky City. There was less than a day before the final battle. Yang Dingtian and the Sea Snake Empress entered the first dark realm and waited for the dark crack to open. I originally planned to update once, but in the end, I completed 2 updates. Chapter 11:26. Right now, it was less than a day before the opening of the Dark Crevice. In Little Western Paradise's time. In the past 5 months, Demon King Su Yentian still had complete control over Little Western Paradise. Previously, he had his evil spirit martial artists possess all the half-saints and saint-level punishers. Then, he possessed some of the saint-level grand priests. Apart from the grand priests rescued by Yang Dingtian, the entire Mount Buzhou had fallen. That day, although Yang Dingtian had destroyed the energy door of the Snow Mountain Castle, Su Yentian, who was fully aware of the energy attribute, immediately reopened the energy door in a short period of time. Neru and Demon Rage too did not leave with Yang Dingtian. Instead, they stayed behind. Then, in the past 5 months, Demon King Su Yentian had done a few things. First, he had his evil spirit martial artists possess all the Silver Palace Martial Arts Hall's experts. That's right, all of them. The Silver Palace Martial Arts Hall's experts who were directly under Chairman Neru's orders, 20 saint level and 50 half-saints, all had their souls destroyed by the Demon King. Then, they were possessed by the evil spirit martial artists. Speaker Neru could only watch as all of this unfolded before him. That was not all. Among the 9 great tribes, there was also a group of pure martial artists. There were about 20 to 30 saint-level martial artists who did not interfere with any political affairs. Most of them had their souls destroyed by Demon King Su Yentian and were possessed by the evil spirit martial artists. At this time, the Demon King Su Yentian had more than 70 saint-level experts under him. From then on, all the saint-level experts in Little Western Paradise, except for the Dark Wanderers, had fallen into the hands of Demon King Su Yentian. In Su Yentian's eyes, this group of Dark Wanderers was the easiest to be loyal to him. As long as they could devour the dark energy, they were willing to sell their souls to the devil. And he, Su Yentian, happened to have the void-rending fire. He could bring the Dark Wanderers to enjoy the strongest dark energy. However, to their surprise, this group of Dark Wanderers seemed to have completely disappeared. They were nowhere to be found in the entire Little Western Paradise. As for the Demon King Su Yenwenin, he had also put a lot of effort into the Dark Wanderer. He had more important things to do. He began to brainwash and rule the entire Little Western Paradise with violence. His left hand used force, and his right hand used theory. The theory he promoted consisted of 2 things. Firstly, the end of the Little Western Paradise was coming. The end of the Fox Demons was coming. Secondly, the Silver Dragon Temple was the savior of the Fox clan. Invading the human countries and occupying them was the only way. The Demon King's methods were crude and direct. It was to repeat his 2 theories 100 times, 1,000 times, 10,000 times. In his left hand were 70 Saint Evil Spirit Warriors and a few hundred half-Saint Evil Spirit Warriors. In his right hand, he held the Fox Demon's Doomsday Theory and Salvation Theory. Under his control, Monsters Wrath II and Chairman Nair directly established the Doomsday Committee in the Joint Council. He, the Silver Dragon Temple's chairman, personally became the leader of the Doomsday Committee. With the support of Neru and Monsters Wrath II, and the suppression of the absolute power in his hands, the Doomsday Committee completely overthrew the Little Western Paradise's Joint Council and the 9 great tribes in a short period of time, becoming the highest authority in Little Western Paradise. Of course, there were definitely people who objected midway. And there were still many who objected. From the 9 great tribes to the Joint Council, there were people who objected. The Demon King Su Yenwentian's solution was simple and crude. He either killed them or destroyed their souls and took over their bodies. In this short period of suppression, Su Yenwentian's evil spirit warriors killed more than 100,000 fox demons. Among them, he took over the bodies of 3 tribe leaders and 17 small and medium-sized tribe leaders. After the Doomsday Committee controlled all the power in Little Western Paradise, Su Yenwentian forcefully passed the Little Western Paradise's temporary law of salvation. This was an extremely strict law, and it meant that Su Yenwentian had absolute power over the entire Little Western Paradise's fox demons. Then, Su Yenwentian reorganized the Silver Palace's Martial Arts Hall and the Snow Mountain Castle. He reorganized all the Sage and Half-Sage level powerhouses into the Doomsday Committee's patrollers. This patrollers, made up of dozens of Sage level and hundreds of Half-Sage level evil spirit powerhouses, had the absolute power to act first and report later. And the Little Western Paradise's temporary law of salvation had the highest authority, and it eliminated all opposition. In just a few months, the entire Little Western Paradise was completely slaughtered. One hand wielded force, the other hand wielded theory. Su Yenwenian displayed political methods that far surpassed Naru and Monster's Wrath II. In just a few months, he became the supreme ruler of Little Western Paradise. On this point, Monster's Wrath II and Naru were very surprised. Originally, the two of them thought that Little Western Paradise was the most complicated world of power, and no one could completely unify the voice of Little Western Paradise. At that time, the Demon King was strong enough, but he still could not unify Little Western Paradise. Even if he did not die suddenly, even if he won in the end, he could not truly unify the entire Little Western Paradise. Because the independent forces of the 9 great tribes and hundreds of small and medium-sized tribes were a mess. According to Monster's Wrath II and Yang Dingtian's plan, it would take a few thousand years to completely unify Little Western Paradise with the brainwashing of religion and the rise of the demigod Demon Sun. Monster's Wrath II's plan was to complete the unification in a few thousand years. Unexpectedly, in just a few months, the Demon King, Su Yenwenin, had completed this matter. Moreover, the people he killed were not even 1,000,000. Most importantly, this unification was not superficial, nor was it superficial. Instead, it was very solid. At that time, the collapse of Little Western Paradise had almost scared all the Demon Fox tribe out of their wits. Therefore, Su Yenwentian's doomsday theory was accepted by almost all the Demon Fox tribe. Under the panic of this doomsday theory, the first ones to accept Su Yenwenin, the Silver Dragon Temple Master, were most of the nobles and ordinary people. This group of people was the most fearful, the most uneasy, and the most lost. Previously, they believed in martial arts, but after being tricked by Yong Shi, they believed in art and culture. This group of low-level Demon Fox tribe used to be mavericks. They did not care about anyone, and they pursued vanity and art. Originally, they thought that this group of people could not be conquered by anyone. Unexpectedly, the first to change sides were the low-level Demon Fox tribe, who made up the majority. In the beginning, they were only conquered. However, after thousands of brainwashing, this group of people became Su Yenwentian's most ardent admirers. Su Yenwenin had not reached the level of a demigod, but among this group of people, he quickly rose to the level of a god. As for the high-level Demon Fox tribe, although they were greedy, snobbish, and corrupted, they were smart enough. They would not blindly follow, nor would they believe in anything. Their only belief was profit. Therefore, when Su Yenwenian established the Doomsday Committee to take over the Joint Council and the 9 great tribes, it was opposed and resisted by almost all the high-level Demon Fox tribe. However, this group of high-level Demon Fox tribe nobles, other than being smart and greedy, had another characteristic, and that was that they were afraid of death, seeking benefits and avoiding harm. Under Su Yenwentian's bloody suppression, one by one, the high-level Demon Fox tribe nobles immediately fell to their knees and knelt down. Su Yenwentian's strategy for Little Western Paradise was very clear. Martial arts and theories went hand in hand. Brainwash a group, rope in a group, and slaughter a group. Then, the messy Little Western Paradise was straightened out. In less than half a year, the entire Little Western Paradise was completely in the hands of Su Yenwenian. The thousands of evil spirit warriors that he sent out, after taking over the bodies of the Demon Fox tribe, joined the Doomsday Committee, the most powerful organization. Then, from the bottom to the top, he seized all the power and armed forces of Little Western Paradise. At this time, Monster Rage II and Chairman Naru realized that this Demon King was the true political genius. He did not bother to understand the incomparably chaotic power structure of Little Western Paradise at all. He did not compromise or trade. He was direct, brainwashing, and violence, completely overturning the original power structure. Then he used the evil spirit warriors, an absolutely loyal organization, to directly seize all the power of Little Western Paradise. All the low-level Demon Foxes worshipped him crazily, and they received many resources from Su Yenwenian, becoming his beneficiaries and supporters. The high-level Demon Fox tribe nobles who opposed were immediately killed and taken over. Although there were still many opponents in this group, they did not dare to speak out at all. It was already very lucky to be able to keep their lives. Then, Naru and Monster Rage 2 realized that they did not seem to be of much use anymore. Sigh. The demon foxes of Little Western Paradise are too weak and ignorant. Demon King Su Yen Wenyin shook his head and sighed. I originally thought that with their thousands of years of civilization, the joint parliament, and the arts and culture, they would definitely be much better than the human countries. I didn't expect them to be so stupid and weak, still as soft-footed sheep. In less than half a year, Demon King Su Yen Wenyan, who had completely ruled Little Western Paradise, really had a feeling of loneliness. Devil Queen said, "Soon, it will be the human country's turn. Do you think the human countries will be so successful?" Demon King Su Yen Wenyan said, "It's much more troublesome, because there are countless people in the human countries who are the beneficiaries and supporters of Yang Dingtian. The Middle Continent can easily take over the East Continent, and even during the Doomsday Battle, the people of the Middle Continent rebelled. The West Continent has no other choice. They are Yang Dingtian's most loyal followers. We can't give them more, so we can only kill them all." Devil Queen said, "Then, the West Continent will be divided into the demon foxes. Let the demon foxes and the human countries kill each other, and we will be the highest arbiters." Demon King Su Yen Wentian said, "So, this game is not interesting. Fighting against the god of chaos is the most interesting game. Becoming a god is an eternal victory." Devil Queen said, "Whether you succeed or not, I will always follow." Demon King Su Yen Wentian lovingly stroked Devil Queen's cheek. Devil Queen suddenly said, "Your Majesty, do you want me to give you half of the primeval evil spirit?" Demon King Su Yen Wenyan shook his head and said, "You can't give it to me, because you can't separate your soul from the evil spirit." Then, the two of them became silent. Devil Queen Su Yen Wentian said, "In less than a day, we will be entering the human countries. Do you think Yang Dingtian will have a strong resistance?" Demon King Su Yen Wentian said, "Yes, he will. The strength of this person's will is hard to imagine. However, his fate has already been decided." Devil Queen Su Yen Wenyan said, "Then, do you think it is possible for him to find the Naga Dugu Shuang?" Demon King Su Yen Wenyan suddenly became silent, and then said, "Of course I hope he can't find it, but any wise person will not deceive themselves and others. We have to prepare for the worst." Devil Queen Su Yen Wenyan said, "Then what is the worst? If Yang Dingtan finds the Naga Dugu Shuang, and combines with her, sharing the demigod body, we will be completely helpless against him?" Demon King Su Yen Wenyan said, "No, the situation will not be so bad. Even if Yang Dingtian finds the Naga Dugu Shuang, the two of them will definitely not be able to copulate." Devil Queen Su Yen Wentian said, "Isn't it said that the Naga are incomparably loyal to their partners?" "Yes, it is indeed so." Demon King Su Yen Wentian said, "The world only knows that the Naga are loyal to their partners, but they do not know the reason behind it. Because once the Naga and their partners copulate, they will share cultivation, life, and energy. Then, can they not be loyal? Because there is no choice. Therefore, the so-called loyalty is not because of feelings, but because of reality." Devil Queen Su Yen Wentian was stunned. Demon King Su Yen Wentian sighed. "In this world, there is no such thing as true eternal feelings, only eternal benefits. For the Naga, energy is the only benefit. Because of feelings and eternal loyalty, that is not a myth, but a fairy tale." Devil Queen Su Yen Wentian's expression changed slightly, and immediately said with a trembling voice, "Then the feelings between us are also not eternal loyalty?" Demon King Su Yen Wentian looked over and said, "There are two kinds of feelings that can be eternal loyalty. The first is spiritual sustenance. For example, when a person completely falls into the dark hell, he will cling to the only light in his heart to represent that he is still alive. This light is his only spiritual sustenance. Knowing how to love is the only light I have. I have already fallen to the extreme, so my love for you has already become my only spiritual sustenance." Devil Queen Su Yen Wentian trembled. Demon King Su Yen Wentian's words did not only seem to be talking about him, but also about her. Devil Queen Su Yen Wentian said, "Then what about the second kind?" Demon King Su Yen Wentian said, "The second kind is the will of oneself. Protection is a kind of will to protect one's loved ones from harm. This kind of love is not loyal, but it is also relatively eternal, unless his will collapses. This is Yang Dingtian's case. Queen Devil Queen nodded. The demon King Wentian's words, although the reality was so cold that it made people shiver, was the truth. The so-called love came after the impulse between a man and a woman. It was either spiritual sustenance or the responsibility of guarding. The demon king continued, and the Naga Dugu Shuang doesn't have any of these two. The Naga's only instinct was their greed for energy. If Yang Dingtian and Naga Shuang combine, it means that Dugu Shuang will lose half of her energy. Do you think she will do that? The Naga are greedy for energy. Losing 1/10 of their energy is like digging out their lifeblood, let alone half. Queen Devil Queen nodded. Demon King Su Yenwentian said, but after I took over Yang Dingtian's body, it was different. Because I devoured for a full 200 years in the throne of darkness, the energy in my body has already surpassed that of Naga. So, once I copulated with Naga Shuang, she became the beneficiary. Queen Devil Queen Su Yenwentian said, so, Yang Dingtian is doomed, right? Demon King Su Yenwentian nodded. Yes, he is doomed. It is impossible for him to copulate with Naga, and it is impossible for him to have Naga's demigod body. It is impossible for them to kill me, and it is impossible for them to stop the invasion of the Fox army. So, even if he finds Naga Shuang, it is useless, and it will not change anything. Queen Devil Queen Su Yenwentian sighed. This result is so realistic. Demon King Su Yenwentian said, this world is incomparably realistic. If you can't recognize the original reality of the world, it is like walking with your eyes covered. You will either fall to your death or be blind for the rest of your life. Queen Devil Queen Su Yenwentian was completely silent and did not speak. Yang Dingtian can't recognize the reality of this world, so he is destined to fall to his death. The outcome is already decided. Demon King Su Yenwentian said word by word as if he was passing judgment. Then he suddenly flew tens of thousands of meters high in the sky and waved his hand. The destruction is about to begin. Whoosh 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 whoosh. Instantly, countless figures soared into the sky like countless meteors. First, there were dozens of saint-level evil spirit experts, then hundreds of half-saint-level evil spirit experts. Then, there were thousands of Demon Fox Clan's Infinite Grandmaster experts. Then, there were tens of thousands of Demon Fox Clan experts. Then, there were hundreds of thousands of high-level Demon Fox Clan warriors. Finally, there were millions of mid-level Demon Fox Clan warriors. And countless flying beasts. The Demon Fox army of millions completely filled the sky for hundreds of miles. It blotted out the sky and covered the sun. Although there were only a few million of them, they were completely a martial arts army. They were not something that the human country's crystal cannons and the like could resist. They were not undead, so they were not something that wireless lightning could resist. The lowest cultivation in this martial arts army was also a human martial venerable. Their strength was hundreds or thousands of times greater than that of the human countries. No matter how heaven-defying Yang Dingtian was, he would not be able to resist this powerful martial arts army. Moreover, the strongest among them were all evil spirit martial artists. Most of them had been brainwashed by the Demon King Su Yenwentian and had become the most fanatical advocates of destroying the human countries. Under the Demon King's brainwashing, they were filled with lust and completely regarded humans as ants, pigs, and dogs. Of course, the Demon Fox Clan had always looked down on humans. At that time, Demon Li Li and later Demon Li Tu were all like this. Therefore, once they were allowed to enter the human countries, the outcome would be destruction. Queen Devil Queen said, I'll lead the army and enter the human countries. Demon King Su Yenwentian said, follow me through the dark crack and enter the first dark realm. If Yang Dingtian really finds the Naga Dugu Shuang, we'll go and meet him together. Queen Devil Queen was shocked and nodded. Okay, I'll fight Yang Dingtian, you fight the Naga Dugu Shuang. Chapter 1127. Devil Queen Dead Princess expression shook as she nodded and said, all right, I will fight Yang Ding. You will fight Naga Dugushuang. Following that, the infernal queen dead concubine asked, Can you win against the Nagas alone? Demon King Su Yentian nodded. Yes, I can. Naga needs a few thousand years to break through to demigod. The current Naga Dugushue is at most invincible. Queen Devil Queen asked, Then, is it possible for Yang Dingtian to find other powerful helpers? Demon King Su Yentian did not directly answer Yang Dingtian's question. He said, As long as you can't kill me, everything Yang Dingtian does is useless. As long as he doesn't mate with Naga Shui, his ending is already set. At this time, President Neru, Demon Rage 2, and the others flew to Demon King Su Yentian. These two were the commander and deputy commander of the Demon Fox Tribe's army. Demon King Su Yentian said, When the door to the human countries is opened, you won't hesitate to attack, right? Demon Rage 2 revealed a bitter smile and said, We already have no other choice. Demon Rage and Neru indeed had no other choice. Because they had lost control of the Demon Fox Tribe's army. All the half-saints and saints had been taken over by the evil spirit warriors. Most of the low-level warriors had been brainwashed by Su Yentian. They wholeheartedly wanted to destroy the human countries and take over the Vitality continent for themselves. They wanted to avoid the end of the Little Western Paradise. Demon King Su Yentian's gaze swept across Demon Rage 2 and President Nair. In fact, these two were not of much use now and could be eliminated at any time. However, it did not matter if they were eliminated or not. Therefore, they lived on for the time being. Let's go! Demon King Su Yentian shouted, Destroy the inferior human race. Long live the Demon Fox Tribe. Immediately, millions of Demon Fox Tribe's army shouted in unison, Long live the Palace Master, long live, long live. Whoosh 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 whoosh, then, millions of Demon Fox Tribe's army flew toward the Skull Hall like a dense cluster of stars. As long as the door to the human countries opened, millions of Demon Fox Tribe's army would surge into the human countries like a tide. Demon King Su Yentian and Queen Devil Queen flew toward the southwest. That was because the next crack of darkness was going to appear right there. Along the way, Yang Dingtian and the Sea Snake Empress did not talk. Of course, the current Sea Snake Empress had Bing Ling's face, and Yang Dingtian had once violated this body. However, at this moment, there was not much dissonance because the powerful Sea Snake Empress had already changed the appearance of her body. Now, she didn't look very similar to the Ice Spirit. First of all, the curves of this delicate body were even more curvaceous, rising and falling. All of the Sea Snake tribe had the figure of a devil, and the Sea Snake Empress was no exception. As for her face, it was gradually changing towards the original face of the Sea Snake Empress. From her previous ice-cold appearance, she had become noble and gorgeous. Even the light yellow sea snake scales on her neck were slightly protruding. She was really powerful. She had turned an energy body into a sea snake's body. Moreover, compared to the original appearance of the Ice Spirit, she seemed to be much more beautiful. The two of them quietly flew to the place where the dark crack was about to bloom. Yang Dingtian had already dug out a stone house in this place. Naga Shuang sat cross-legged on the stone bed, quietly meditating. Even though she was meditating, her beautiful face seemed to be filled with impatience. Along the way, when Yang Dingtian and the Sea Snake Empress flew side by side, he felt that she was completely radiant. After entering the stone house, he vaguely felt that the light of the Sea Snake Empress had instantly dimmed, and the faint golden light on Naga Shuang's body made it impossible to look at her directly. Seeing Yang Dingtian and the Sea Snake Empress enter, Naga Shuang opened her eyes and asked, "Husband, did you succeed?" "It's a success," Yang Dingtian said. Naga Shuang closed her beautiful eyes again. Yang Dingtian also found a place to sit down cross-legged. The Sea Snake Empress sat down cross-legged in the lower right corner of Naga Shuang. The three of them sat in a triangle. And in the middle was the place where the dark crack was about to bloom. Yang Dingtian, the Sea Snake Empress, and Naga Shuang did not say a word. They were completely silent. Time passed by minute by minute. 6 hours later. Rumble. Sure enough, it came on time. The ground beneath Yang Dingtian began to tremble. The hard ground between the three of them began to tear open. It was as if there was a huge force that began to tear everything apart. This gap was getting bigger and bigger. Boom. In the end, the stone room that Yang Dingtian had dug was completely torn apart. The hard ground in the middle of the three of them completely collapsed, and a huge black hole appeared. The dark crack would bloom here. Although the drastic change in the torn space caused the Little Western Paradise to collapse, its intersection with the first dark domain did not change, and it still opened on time. Yang Dingtian couldn't help but hold his breath. The final moment was about to arrive. At this moment, the Sea Snake Empress also opened her eyes and said, "Frost Master, after being turned into a fossil by Medusa, can you still be resurrected?" Naga Dugu Shuang shook her head and said, "I don't know." The Sea Snake Empress looked at Yang Dingtian. "I heard that this Empress Medusa didn't die with the Great Nirvana, and she didn't completely destroy the Mermaid Clan, right?" Yang Dingtian nodded. The Sea Snake Empress said, "Then where is she now?" "Soul Leaving Hall," Yang Dingtian said. The Sea Snake Empress said, "Where is the Soul Leaving Hall?" Yang Dingtian said, "I don't know. I want to find it too." The Sea Snake Empress said, "If you don't die in this battle, go to the Soul Leaving Hall. Remember to call me along." Yang Dingtian hesitated for a moment, then nodded. Naga Dugu Shuang wanted to say something but hesitated, but in the end, she didn't say anything. Then, the three of them quieted down again, waiting for the dark crack to bloom. The time for the final battle was getting closer and closer. Another 6 hours passed. Boom. The ground began to tremble violently, as if there was a high-intensity earthquake. Yang Dingtian knew that this was the first Dark Realm and the Little Western Paradise continent completely intertwined. Because the Little Western Paradise was considered the Vitality continent, and the first Dark Realm was the Death continent. When these two continents intertwined, the Dark Realm would instinctively devour the Death continent. Once this devouring began, the Abyss Border would be born. Because no matter what kind of Abyss Border it was the product of death-devouring vitality. Bang! Finally, the two continents were completely connected. The dark crack was born and it bloomed. Almost instantly, a small abyss border was born between the two continents. This abyss border was only slightly bigger than a door. It began to devour crazily, It devoured and disintegrated the land at the border of the Little Western Paradise inch by inch, turning it into the abyss border. And on the first Dark Realm's side, the mysterious light unique to the abyss border seeped out bit by bit. A powerful energy suddenly rushed out of the dark fissure. This meant that the Little Western Paradise and the first Dark Realm had been completely connected. As long as the void-splitting fire was used to purify the temporary abyss border in the middle, they could travel back and forth. In other words, the Demon King Su Yentian was about to come out. At the bottom of the southwest territory of the Little Western Paradise. The Demon King and the Devil Queen were at the entrance of the darkness, watching the complete formation of the abyss border. The dark crack had completely bloomed, and they could directly go to the first Dark Realm. The Demon King Su Yentian directly released the void-splitting fire. The Queen Devil Queen suddenly said, "Your Majesty, I feel a little uneasy." This line was very familiar. At that time, Prince Li Ming had once said this. When the dark crack bloomed, and the first Dark Realm was about to go to the Little Western Paradise, Prince Li Ming said the same thing. But the Queen Devil Queen directly mocked him, saying that he was timid and cowardly. And so, the Queen Devil Queen, Prince Li Ming, and the others directly passed through the abyss border and entered the Little Western Paradise. Then all the people of the evil ways were caught. Prince Li Ming was dead. Now, the Queen Devil Queen felt uneasy. The Demon King Su Yentian smiled and said, "It's okay. The worst result is nothing more than Naga Shuang returning, but that still can't change Yang Dingtian's ending." The Queen Devil Queen said, "But this intuition of uneasiness is very accurate. Li Ming felt uneasy first and then died." The Demon King Su Yentian said, "You think too much. Your uneasiness might come from other things, and not our ending today." Next, the Demon King didn't hesitate at all. He was extremely sure of the outcome. He directly placed the void-splitting fire into the temporary abyss border in front of him. This temporary border was very far away and very small. In almost a moment, it was completely purified into a transparent crystal by the void-splitting fire. "Let's go!" When he pulled the Queen Devil Queen, the two of them directly jumped into the purified abyss border. And so, the Queen Devil Queen once again felt a strong sense of space-time travel. However, this abyss border was very short after all, so in just a moment, this travel ended. The Demon King Su Yentian and the Queen Devil Queen passed through the dark crack and arrived at the first dark domain. Whoosh! The two of them suddenly flew out of the crack. Then they saw Yang Dingtian, Naga Dugushuang, and the Sea Snake Empress at first glance. Seeing the three of them, the Demon King wasn't surprised at all. Instead, he said, "It seems that it's right to prepare for the worst. This way, there won't be any surprise or disappointment." Then, the Demon King bowed deeply to Naga Shuang and said in a stunned tone, "Greetings, Your Excellency Naga Dugushuang." Naga Shuang nodded at her. The Demon King looked at the Sea Snake Empress and thought for a while before saying, "If I'm not wrong, Your Excellency is the Empress of the Sea Serpent Empire?" "That's right," the Sea Snake Empress said. The Demon King Wendian said to Yang Dingtian, "Yang Dingen, is that all your people?" Yang Dingen nodded and said, "Yes, that's all." The Demon King said, "All right, then let's begin. Let's begin." Chapter 11:28. The Naga Shuang, the Sea Snake Empress, the two of them against the Demon King. The Queen Devil Queen looked at Yang Dingtian. "Then you're mine. Let's begin." "Sure." Yang Dingtian. Yang Dingtian slowly pulled out his Chaos Emperor Grade Soul Sword. The Naga Shuang turned into a golden light and rushed into the sky. Roar! With a shocking roar, the Naga Shuang transformed into its Naga form. Its body was hundreds of meters long. It was shining with golden light and didn't look like a Naga. It looked like a giant dragon. The Sea Snake Empress was right. Naga was the descendant of the fallen divine dragon. It was just that it wasn't born with the help of sea snakes and mermaids. This hundreds of meters long dragon-like Naga Shuang soared in the sky. An earth-shattering pressure enveloped them. Those with slightly weaker cultivations would have immediately collapsed under this pressure. Even the Demon King's eyes twitched and his expression changed slightly. Even if the Naga hadn't broken through to the demigod realm, it was still a demigod race. This kind of powerful energy field completely made people tremble. Whoosh! The Naga Shuang suddenly spat out a ball of golden energy. This ball of energy was almost exactly the same as its own cultivation. Boom! This ball of energy suddenly shot to the ground. A huge golden energy barrier suddenly opened up. This energy shield had a radius of over 10,000 meters and completely enveloped the 5 people present. The Demon King had the Chaos Emperor armor, so if the battle was unfavorable, he could immediately flash away. With this powerful energy shield, no one could leave the battlefield unless the Naga Shuang completely exhausted its energy. Seeing this scene, the Demon King's gaze began to tremble. Then, he slowly pulled out a sharp sword and stared at the Sea Snake Empress. He wouldn't attack the Naga because it would be a waste of energy. A fully transformed Naga already had an immortal and indestructible body. As long as the Sea Snake Empress was eliminated, the Naga Shuang would run out of energy and retreat. Of course, if Naga did not retreat by then, they would inevitably become his prisoners. Tisk! The Demon King suddenly roared. Whoosh 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 whoosh. His body abruptly split into dozens, hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands. Then, tens of thousands of Demon King, holding sharp swords, crazily shot towards the Sea Snake Empress. The doppelganger technique was not a heaven-defying profound skill. It consumed profound chi, and the results were not good. It was equivalent to expending 4 times the amount of profound energy to produce 2 times the attack. However, with a second-grade evil spirit, a sea of chi that was close to that of a demigod, and the terrifying Chaos Emperor armor, the doppelganger technique became incomparably terrifying in the hands of the Demon King. This was equivalent to expending 20,000 xianqi attacks to create 10,000 xianqi attacks. These 10,000 attacks all landed on the Sea Snake Empress's body. Swish, 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 swish. The Sea Snake Empress's figure was suddenly surrounded by tens of thousands of demon kings, and then attacked crazily. Almost in the blink of an eye, the Sea Snake Empress's body was shattered into ashes. The ice spirit's body that he had obtained with great difficulty was instantly shattered. The ancient Sea Snake Empress was so powerful, but she was still unable to withstand a single blow from the Demon King. However, at this moment, a ray of light suddenly shot out from Yang Dingtian's spatial ring. It was Vulture, the most powerful celestial spirit master, Vulture. Even though she had already broken through to the saint level, this battle was still too dangerous for her. However, it was very likely that she would be needed in this battle, so she was thrown into the spatial ring. Whoosh! Vulture controlled the celestial spirit master's talent and instantly condensed the Sea Snake Empress's body. This was an energy body that had been shattered countless times. As long as it did not turn into ashes, it could immediately condense and revive. In the blink of an eye, the Sea Snake Empress was immediately revived with full health. After Vulture finished its resurrection, it immediately returned to Yang Dingtian's spatial ring. Vulture, this celestial spirit master, was really a heaven-defying bug. When the Demon King saw this, his expression changed drastically. This fucking how long would this fight take? Then, his gaze immediately turned towards the Queen Devil Queen. It was very simple to stop Vulture, just take down Yang Dingtian. Queen Devil Queen nodded and sneered, Yang Ding, you guys are very despicable. 4 of you fight the 2 of us. Yang Dingtian sneered and said a sentence that the villains in the TV series of the future often said, there's no need to talk about the morality of the pugilistic world with a group of evil demons like you. Everyone attacked together. Unfortunately, Wen Yin transmigrated too early and had not watched martial arts TV series. He did not understand Yang Dingtian's joke. This cold humor was blind. Queen Devil Queen said again, Yang Dingtian, you should know that ever since I demonized, I have never really made a move against you. Otherwise, with your weakness, you would have died long ago. Yang Dingtian said, I know. Queen Devil Queen said, because I have only demonized and fallen, but my will and soul are still Piao Ling of nothingness. I still pity you in my heart and am not willing to hurt you. However, the moment you executed Li Ming, this pity and sympathy completely disappeared. From now on, I will not show mercy to you. Understood. Yang Dingtian said. Queen Devil Queen said, the last time you escaped, it has already been 5 months. I want to know how much your cultivation has broken through. It seems like you have broken through to the Saint Realm. However, this is meaningless. The difference between the Saint Realm and the Saint Realm is like heaven and earth. Yang Dingtian frowned and said, enough, Devil Queen, don't say any more. Let's fight. Courting death. Queen Devil Queen roared. Her whole person suddenly turned into a purple flowing light and shot towards Yang Dingtian like lightning. Yang Dingtian stomped his foot and the ground under his feet instantly collapsed. His figure suddenly transformed into a snow-white stream of light as he charged at the infernal queen. They were all ruthless people. The moment they made a move, it was like they wanted to perish together. The 2 streams of light instantly collided with each other. Boom! It was like a comet colliding with the earth, and also like a nuclear bomb exploding. With a loud sound, an incomparably bright white light, shining for thousands of miles, and an earth-shattering energy suddenly shot out. Boom, 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 boom. The hard ground in the surrounding tens of thousands of meters seemed to have been plowed, crazily torn apart and collapsed. Yang Dingtian and Devil Queen, after fiercely colliding, separated like lightning. After landing, Devil Queen suddenly staggered and spat out a mouthful of blood. Yang Dingtian did not retreat half a step, but there was some blood at the corner of his mouth. Queen Devil Queen was incomparably shocked. Even Yang Dingtian, who had broken through to the Saint Realm, could not withstand her shocking attack. Although he would not die, his Xian veins would immediately be torn apart and his cultivation would be completely crippled. Even their souls would be shaken to the point that they would be reduced to nothing more than a walking corpse. This way, it was just enough for the Demon King to devour. As for his Xian veins and body being destroyed, it did not matter. As long as the first-class evil spirit was transplanted into his body, not only would he recover to his original state, his body's cultivation would also be much stronger. Of course, if the first-class evil spirit was removed from Wolingzi's body, he would die. But who cared, now that the evil ways had countless Saint Realm experts? What was a mere Wolingzi? But she did not expect that not only did Yang Dingtian not become a cripple, he was not even injured. On the contrary, Queen Devil Queen herself vomited blood, her internal organs were displaced, and she was seriously injured. Of course, the primordial evil spirit almost instantly healed her injuries, but that mouthful of blood still spurted out. What did this mean? It meant that Yang Dingtian's cultivation had surpassed her Queen Devil Queen. How was this possible? 5 months ago, Yang Dingtian did not even break through to the Saint Realm. In just 5 months, not only did he break through to the Saint Realm, but his cultivation had also surpassed her? How was this possible? Queen Devil Queen had reached the limit of her cultivation, the 24th level. Of course, Yang Dingtian was also at the 24th level, but the Chaos Emperor grade soul sword in his hand had an extremely terrifying Xian Qi bonus, so he suppressed Queen Devil Queen. Queen Devil Queen stared at Yang Dingtian's face and said, "You have already gathered with Naga? Shared her cultivation?" Yang Dingtian did not answer, because if he did, it would provoke Naga Shuang. However, even if he did not answer, it still provoked Naga Shuang. Originally, Naga Shuang was crazily attacking, tearing apart the Demon King's countless clones. Hearing Queen Devil Queen's words, her body trembled and she stopped attacking for a moment. Seeing this scene, Demon King, who was fighting bitterly and desperately chasing after the Sea Snake Empress, was delighted. Naga did not truly combine with Yang Dingtian. To a large extent, this meant that she had betrayed her feelings. Her greed for energy exceeded her love for Yang Dingtian. In this way she might feel guilty. And the guilt of a powerhouse was very terrifying. Once a peerless powerhouse felt guilty, they would not think of a way to make up for it. Instead, they would completely erase the thing that made her feel guilty. In this way, she would not have to feel guilty and could feel at ease. After pausing for a moment, Naga Shuang continued to destroy Demon King's clones. And Demon King was still crazily attacking the Sea Snake Empress. Queen Devil Queen wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth and said coldly, "How terrifying is it to break through to the 24th level without mating with Naga? We actually raised such a big opponent. Our no-kill order almost caused us to fall into a desperate situation. Don't worry, even if I have to risk my life to prevent Demon King from possessing me, I won't let you leave. Even if I have to tear you into pieces and kill you completely." Queen Devil Queen raised her jade-like hand and her magic staff flying sword slowly floated up. "Yang Dingtian, your Naga royalty sword soul is gone, right? Your Naga royalty demon core has already exhausted its energy," Queen Devil Queen said. "In fact, I can't even feel any profound chi energy in your soul sword." Yang Dingtian nodded. Anyone could see that the hilt of his soul sword was absolutely transparent. There was no sign of the Naga royalty demon core. As for the Devil Queen not being able to feel any energy in Yang Dingtian's soul sword, that was because of the chaos attribute. Of course, there would be no energy perception. Queen Devil Queen continued, "My soul sword has been cultivated for more than 200 years. Its cultivation is completely on par with mine. Can you fight against two 24th level saint level experts? Today, your ending is already decided." Finished. Queen Devil Queen's expression suddenly became gloomy and cold. Whoosh 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 whoosh, countless blue sword souls shot out from the Devil Queen's undead concubine's soul sword. Thousands, tens of thousands of cold sword souls covered the sky and covered the earth. 24th level sword soul. And at the same time, Queen Devil Queen's body once again turned into a stream of light and shot towards Yang Dingtian. Mixed in with the countless sword souls, she was like a meteor. Yang Dingtian stood in place, motionless. His Chaos Emperor-grade soul sword floated into the air. It flew very slowly, without any 10,000 swords return to origin soul technique. It just flew over slowly. And Yang Dingtian flew very quickly, turning into a shocking light, once again colliding with the Devil Queen. Boom! With a loud bang, the Devil Queen and Yang Dingtian once again collided crazily. And the Devil Queen's 24th level sword soul, Countless blew hard, shot crazily on Yang Dingtian's soul sword. Dang 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 dang. In an instant, countless sword souls shattered. In the air, they turned into countless green lights and fell one after another. The scene was resplendent and beautiful. All the 10,000 swords returned to origin sword souls shattered. In the end, only the real soul sword was left, the sword that the Devil Queen regarded as her life, the 24th level magic staff soul sword. Yang Dingtian's Chaos Emperor-grade soul sword still flew over slowly, gently hitting the Devil Queen's soul sword. Ding! In an instant, the jade shattered. Chapter 1129. Yang Dingtian and Queen Devil Queen directly collided with each other. Once again, it was like a nuclear explosion. This time, Yang Dingtian did not have the support of his profound qi. Both of them directly flew out, vomiting blood in the air. The cultivation of the two could be considered to be about the same. Queen Devil Queen and the primeval evil spirit reached the limit of cultivation, which was exactly the same as Yang Dingtian's 9 Yang profound veins. At the same time, the two people's soul swords also lightly collided with each other. Ding! The soul sword that Queen Devil Queen treasured like her life was completely shattered just like that. It was lightly hit by Yang Dingtian's soul sword and shattered. It turned into countless blue powder and completely turned into ashes. Queen Devil Queen was completely stunned. How is this possible? Yang Dingtian's soul sword was very high grade. Queen Devil Queen was very clear about this. But even so what? The soul sword in her Nihility Piaoling's hand was also very high grade. How could her soul sword be completely shattered with a light touch? How is this possible? Queen Devil Queen flew out a few thousand meters and crashed into Naga Shuang's energy wall and fell to the ground. She stared blankly at her soul sword, shattered into pieces, and was completely stunned in an instant. This soul sword had accompanied her for countless years. From Nihility Piaoling to Queen Devil Queen, it had never left her. This was almost another life of hers, and now it was shattered just like that. Yang Dingtian gently put it away. Immediately, this soul sword flew back to Yang Dingtian's hand like lightning. Queen Devil Queen was stunned for a long time and asked, What kind of soul sword is this? Yang Dingtian, Primal Chaos Emperor-grade soul sword. Impossible, the Queen Devil Queen roared. There is no such thing as a true Emperor-grade soul sword in this world. Yang Dingtian, yes, but you haven't seen it before. Your ancestor, Shuwu Pian, forged the first Primal Chaos Emperor-grade soul sword, and mine is the second. Don't talk to me about her, the Queen Devil Queen said sternly. Then she looked at the sovereign-grade soul sword that had already disappeared. Suddenly she said, Can you let me see your sovereign-grade soul sword? Whoosh! With a thought from Yang Dingtian, the soul sword flew out and landed in the hands of the Queen Devil Queen. Queen Devil Queen looked at this soul sword with incomparable intoxication. It's so light, I've never held such a light sword before. Queen Devil Queen said, Only 19 kilograms. Yang Dingtian, it was forged with 999 pieces of 10,000-year-old bloody black gold and 999 pieces of 10,000-year-old profound ice gold. Nearly 100,000 kilograms, but only 19 kilograms. The Devil Queen held it in her hands and looked at it carefully. The whole sword was completely transparent, as if it didn't exist at all. There was no sword more beautiful in this world. The Queen Devil Queen continued, Isn't the Naga royalty demon core out of energy? Yang Dingtian, I found a sea soul crystal, a demigod sea soul crystal. The Devil Queen didn't have any expression, but the demon king Su Yenwen trembled slightly when he heard this. A demigod sea soul crystal, which meant a demigod sword soul. His cultivation base was close to that of a demigod. Coupled with the Chaos Emperor armor, he might be able to fend off 2 demigods, but not 3. The Demon King Su Yenwenian was finally a little frightened at this time and wanted to escape. However, a radius of tens of thousands of meters had been completely covered by the Naga energy shield, and there was no way out. Yang Dingtian looked at the Queen Devil Queen's beautiful face and said, "Senior Nihility, you are not only a member of my Nihility clan, but also the teacher of my wife Dongfang Bingling. It's not too late for you to turn back now." "Turn back? How can I turn back?" The Queen Devil Queen said. "Just surrender without putting up a fight. Yang Dingen, I won't force you to kill the Demon King, and I won't force you lovers to kill each other." The Queen Devil Queen shook her head and sneered, "I can't turn back, I can't turn back." After saying that, her face suddenly became distorted. Boom! 2 terrifying masses of chaos-level profound flames suddenly burst out from her body. Great Yin-Yang technique, mystical fire lightning. She also knew Nihility Piao Ling. The Queen Devil Queen injected her 24th rank cultivation base into the 2 chaos Yin-Yang mystical fires. Then, the 2 mystical fires collided. Boom! The entire energy shield erupted with light countless times brighter than the sun, as if a nuclear bomb had exploded again. The 24th rank powerhouse used all her energy to create mystical fire lightning. The Devil Queen only had one goal: destroy Yang Dingtian's Chaos Emperor grade soul sword. If there were more above the 25th rank, then the Queen Devil Queen's mystical fire lightning had reached the 27th rank. She knew that Yang Dingtian's Chaos Emperor grade soul sword would bring a lot of trouble to the Devil Queen. Therefore, she used all her strength to destroy this soul sword. The mystical fire lightning fiercely struck the soul sword and the Queen Devil Queen's own body. In an instant, the Queen Devil Queen's entire body turned into ashes. Only the soul, chi-si, mystical veins, and heart that were wrapped by the evil spirit of the primordial beginning were left. The evil spirit of the primordial evil spirit quickly restored her body. After the light dissipated, the Queen Devil Queen saw that Yang Dingtian's Chaos Emperor grade soul sword was still floating in the air intact. Not to mention being destroyed, there was not even a trace left. Yang Dingtian gently waved his hand, and almost instantly, the Emperor grade soul sword appeared in Yang Dingtian's hand. If it's so easily destroyed, can it still be considered an Emperor-grade soul sword? Yang Dingtian sneered. At this time, the Queen Devil Queen's body had no more mystical chi energy. Her mystical fire lightning just now had exhausted the last of her energy. Originally, Yang Dingtian could kill her now. He could directly use the dark mystical fire sword soul to tear open her chi-si and make her chi-si explode. However, Yang Dingtian did not do that. Firstly, he did not want to kill Nihility Piao Ling now. Secondly, the dark mystical fire sword soul was used to deal with the Demon King Su Yentian. The mystical chi in the sea spirit crystal chi could not be wasted at all. If it was not enough to tear open the Demon King's chi in the end, it would be a tragedy. The Queen Devil Queen had already lost all of her fighting strength. Next, it was the Demon King who was fighting alone. The Demon King Su Yentian had been using countless clones to chase after the Sea Snake Empress. However, after Yang Dingtian defeated the Devil Queen and displayed the Emperor-grade soul sword, the Demon King Su Yentian knew that he could not be kind today. The 3 experts who were close to the demigod realm could already destroy his Chaos Emperor armor. This was absolutely intolerable, because the Chaos Emperor armor was equivalent to his second life. Without him, the Demon King would not be able to flash hundreds of miles. Therefore, he made a prompt decision and immediately let go of the Sea Snake Empress. His entire body flashed towards Yang Dingtian like a ghost. This game had become no longer fun, so it had to end immediately. Therefore, the Demon King had to capture Yang Dingtian as soon as possible. As long as he caught Yang Dingtian, this battle would be over. Whoosh! The Demon King, who was wearing the Chaos Emperor armor, moved like lightning. It was completely impossible to catch or stop him. Even the Naga Shuang did not have such a fast speed. However, he was unable to catch Yang Dingtian. Instead, he directly collided with the other energy wall. This transparent energy wall completely separated Yang Dingtian and the Demon King. It was still the energy barrier of the Naga Shuang. What was so terrifying about Naga? It has the same cultivation level as you and can release the same level of attack. However, the energy stored in her energy reserve is several times more than yours. Moreover, she has any type of profound chi energy and she is born with an immortal and indestructible body. She can have as many energy shields as she wants. The Demon King could not rush over, could not catch Yang Dingtian, and could not kill Yang Dingtian. He could only continue to attack the Sea Snake Empress crazily. The Sea Snake Empress was no match for him at all. Almost every minute, she would be killed by the Demon King and be completely shattered. However, Vulture always came out in time to revive the Sea Snake Empress. Again and again. The first time she revived the Sea Snake Empress's soul energy from the shattered fossil, she exhausted all of Vulture's cultivation. However, Vulture had already broken through to the saint level and was completely different from back then. Moreover, because she was stored in Bing Ling's body, the Sea Snake Empress's energy was not as strong as it was in the ruins of the Devil Capital. Therefore, Vulture could revive her again and again. Thus, Devil King Su Yentian found himself in a tragic situation. There was no way to continue this battle. Fight Naga? What's the use? She's even more immortal than you, unless you exhaust all of her energy. However, do you want to completely exhaust the energy of a Naga? Or a Naga that has completely transformed? Please help. She has the same cultivation level as you, but her energy reserve is many times larger than a human's, and the energy stored is many times larger. That day in the Empire of Darkness, before it had completely transformed, the Naga Shuang had killed countless dark dragons and dark dragons. Now, you want to compete with her in profound chi? Don't joke around. Then it would be good to kill the Sea Snake Empress. At least, this way, he wouldn't have to be attacked by two experts who were close to demigod, and he wouldn't have to worry about the Chaos Emperor armor being destroyed. His cultivation level could just offset the Naga Shuang's, so that her attacks wouldn't be completely absorbed by the Chaos Emperor armor. But the existence of the Celestial Spirit Master Vulture was like a bug, reviving the Sea Snake Empress countless times. Who asked the Sea Snake Empress to be an energy body from her body to her soul? Why don't you Vulture revive Yang Dingtian? Again and again he revived the Sea Snake Empress. As a result, the Sea Snake Empress completely stopped defending and used all her strength to attack his Chaos Emperor armor. As for the Naga Shuang, she was crazily destroying his clones and destroying his Chaos Emperor armor's defensive energy. It was a pity that Wenyan had never played video games before. Otherwise, he could almost feel that his Chaos Emperor armor's health bar was constantly decreasing. As long as the health bar was empty, the Chaos Emperor armor would explode. Once the Chaos Emperor armor exploded, it would be the time for Yang Dingtian's Dark Mystic Fire Sword Soul to attack. The Demon King was completely powerless to stop it. He was about to be completely miserable. Chapter 1130. Demon King Su Yentian, who deeply understood this point, immediately gave up the meaningless battle. He immediately used all his strength to frantically attack Naga's energy shield, preparing to escape. Moreover, he wanted to directly capture Yang Dingtian and then escape. Boom! Boom! Demon King Su Yentian, almost crazily, attacked the energy shield. As long as the energy shield was broken, no one in the world could stop him from leaving. However, the thickness of Naga's mystical chi was the same as the thickness of Naga's energy shield. Perhaps, when Demon King Su Yentian's mystical chi was completely exhausted, the energy shield would not be broken. Queen Devil Queen on the side, desperately swallowed mystical gathering pills, then sat cross-legged on the ground to recover her battle mystical chi. After a full quarter of an hour, Demon King Su Yentian had already hit the energy shield thousands of times, but it did not budge at all. At this time, Queen Devil Queen's mystical chi energy had completely recovered. She first glanced at Yang Dingtian, then said to Naga Shuang, "Let me go, I want to live and die with Demon King." She was straightforward. After knowing that she was not Yang Dingtian's opponent, she immediately gave up the battle with him and ran over to fight side by side with Demon King Su Yentian. Naga Shuang glanced at Queen Devil Queen, but did not respond. In fact, the Nagas were extremely snobbish. They completely ignored humans like the Devil Queen and the dead concubine. Queen Devil Queen's figure suddenly rushed, and then actually rushed through the energy shield in the middle, returning to Demon King's side. Immediately, Demon King Su Yentian launched a sword attack at Yang Dingtian. In the end, it was blocked by the energy shield in the middle. Naga's energy shield was really awesome. Yang Dingtian could go over, but Demon King on the other side could not. No wonder the Shura Vulture could revive the Sea Snake Empress at any time. The energy barrier in the middle was actually unidirectional. Yang Dingtian could not understand at all. How did he do it? The Devil Queen, who had returned to the Demon King's side, attacked the ancient Sea Snake Empress crazily. However, the attack of her level 24 cultivation was still somewhat useful against Yang Dingtian, but against the Sea Snake Empress, it was almost unharmed. The Sea Snake Empress even completely ignored him and focused on attacking the Demon King alone. Each of her attacks was close to the level of a demigod. Because she could resurrect again and again, towards the end, she simply used a suicidal attack. His entire body turned into a stream of light, fiercely slamming into the Demon King's body. Therefore, the scene immediately became incomparably intense and terrifying. Queen Devil Queen turned into a purple cannonball of light, crazily bombarding the Sea Snake Empress. As for the Sea Snake Empress, she turned into a yellow light and crazily bombarded the Demon King Su Yenwenin. Although the Sea Snake Empress was not as heaven-defying as the Naga Shuang, every time she attacked, the damage to the Chaos Emperor armor was even greater than that of the Naga Shuang. Therefore, the Demon King gritted his teeth, but there was nothing he could do. He could only watch as his woman risked her life to save him, and her body was shattered time and time again. He could only watch as the defensive energy of the Chaos Emperor armor on his body continued to decrease. Under the attacks of the Naga Shuang and the Sea Snake Empress for half an hour, the Chaos Emperor armor's defensive energy was only left with half. The Demon King Su Yenwenin immediately said angrily, "Sea Snake Empress, is there any conflict between us? Why do you want to kill me like this? Are you so willing to work for Yang Dingnan?" The Sea Snake Empress shook her head and said, "You and I have no enmity, and I did not work for Yang Dingnan. I just chose to side with him between you and him." The Demon King Su Yenwenin said unwillingly, "Why? I'm clearly much stronger than him." The Sea Snake Empress said, "But you're much greedier than him." The Demon King Su Yenwenin said, "What do you want? I can give it to you." The Sea Snake Empress said, "I want Empress Medusa to revive the people of my Sea Snake clan. Can you do it?" The Demon King Su Yenwenin said, "I can't do it. Can Yang Dingtian do it?" The Sea Snake Empress said, "At least, he has a much higher chance of doing it than you." Hearing the Sea Snake Empress's words, Yang Dingtian's heart trembled. He didn't expect her to place her hopes of reviving the Sea Snake clan on him. Moreover, she had never said anything. Instead, she had fought desperately for Yang Dingtian, making him owe her a huge favor, and then made this request. As a result, Yang Dingtian no longer had a reason to refuse. The Demon King Su Yenwenin was furious and sneered, "You're betting on him, at least he has to win." Boom 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 boom. In the blink of an eye, the Sea Snake Empress crazily bombarded the Demon King Su Yenwenin dozens of times, and then sneered, "Why can't he win? Your Chaos Emperor armor won't be able to hold on for long." The Demon King Su Yenwenin said slowly, "That's not necessarily true." Then, he actually sat down cross-legged, allowing the Sea Snake Empress and the Naga Shuang to attack him crazily. Then, the Demon King suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes started to change continuously. From human eyes, they turned into two balls of black flames, and finally into two green lights. Then, his body began to change shape. He went from standing on two legs to lying on all fours. Then, tentacles grew out of his body one after another. His body suddenly became incomparably disgusting and terrifying. His entire head became incomparably huge. Seeing this scene, the Sea Snake Empress and the Naga Shuang could not help but stop their attacks. Yang Dingtian also felt his hair stand on end as he watched this scene. The Demon King had turned from a human into an incomparably huge octopus-like monster. His entire head became huge, and his two eyes also became huge, flickering with a green light. Countless tentacles danced in the air. Yang Dingtian remembered that this was the earliest state of the speechless race. The earliest speechless race was a super-intelligent underwater creature. Because of the drastic change, this race began to move from the bottom of the sea to the land, and their entire bodies evolved to walk upright. The reason why the fallen silver dragon had chosen the speechless race as a candidate for the demigod race was because they had strong intelligence and spiritual power. However, the early state of the speechless race was really ugly. Of course, after they went on to land and evolved to walk upright, although their tentacles disappeared, they were still very ugly. It was only after being seduced by the fallen silver dragon and planted with its genes that it became slightly better and resembled a human. At this moment, it really looked like a big-headed octopus. However, why did the Demon King choose to transform at this time? Could it be that this speechless race's early octopus-like form had some trump card? Whoosh! Immediately, the two big eyes on the head of the Demon King's strange figure suddenly shot out a strange green light. Yang Dingtian had just seen this green light when his entire body was instantly frozen. From his Shen meridians to his energy sea, to every part of his body, he was completely frozen and motionless. Immediately after, the Devil Queen was also instantly frozen. The Sea Snake Empress was still like an energy cannonball, blasting towards the Demon King. Then she was instantly frozen in the air. Immediately, she was incomparably terrified and shocked, because this feeling was too familiar. At that time, Queen Medusa had petrified everyone with just a glance. Finally, it was Naga Shuang. She was extremely proud and didn't believe that the octopus-like speechless race's mental attack would be effective against her. However, Naga Shuang was also completely frozen, inch by inch. Mental attack? This was a mental attack, which reminded Yang Dingtian of Shimeningning. At that time, she didn't have the strength to truss a chicken, but she was able to use a mental attack to completely freeze the enemy. This should be a mental attack of similar attributes to Queen Medusa's petrification technique. However, compared to Medusa, it was much weaker. However, it was already very heaven-defying. After the Demon King transformed, not only could he freeze the Sea Snake Empress, who was close to a demigod, he could even freeze the Naga Shuang. This was too shocking. No wonder the fallen silver dragon would choose the speechless race. As a demigod candidate race, they did look much stronger than the demon fox race. After immobilizing everyone, Devil King Su Yentian walked with countless tentacles. The two large eyes on top of his head continued to shoot out terrifying green rays of light, immobilizing everyone. The ugly Demon King slowly walked in front of the Sea Snake Empress and said word by word, "Obviously, you're on the wrong side. Now, I'll tear you apart. Let's see if anyone can revive you." Then, the Demon King's disgusting tentacles grabbed the Sea Snake Empress's body and lifted her into the air. Then, it began to tear the Sea Snake Empress into pieces with all its might. At this moment, Vulture turned into a stream of light and immediately came out of Yang Dingtian's space ring. The cunning her had her eyes completely closed when she came out. But, as soon as she came out, her beautiful body was immediately frozen in the air. Closing her eyes was useless. The eyes on the Demon King's head were constantly emitting a green light that enveloped the entire space. As long as one was in this space, regardless of whether their eyes were open or not, they would be attacked by the spirit element and frozen alive. At that time, when Empress Medusa destroyed the Sea Serpent Empire, she didn't need to look at them at all. Wherever her gaze went, all the sea serpents turned into fossils. The Demon King tore with all its might, and immediately, the beautiful body of the Sea Snake Empress began to distort and deform. Because this was an energy body. When the Demon King transformed into an octopus, his spirit was extremely strong, but his martial strength was weakened. Therefore, he couldn't tear the Sea Snake Empress into pieces at once. However, the Sea Snake Empress was unable to move or resist. Sooner or later, she would be torn apart alive. And once she was torn apart, without Vulture's resurrection, she would definitely die. Yang Dingtian was burning with anxiety. He was thinking about how to save her and how to break the Demon King's spirit element body immobilization technique. He immediately thought of a problem. If Medusa could turn the Sea Snake clan and the Mermaid clan into fossils, could it turn the Naga clan into fossils? It shouldn't be possible, right? However, the Naga Shuang in front of him was also frozen. I don't know if the Naga royalty sword soul can break this spirit technique, but I still have to give it a try. Yang Dingtian's consciousness moved, and the Chaos Emperor Grade Soul Sword shot out. The golden Naga royalty sword soul covered the sky and flew towards the Demon King. Chapter 1131. The energy barrier in the middle did not cause any obstruction. Countless golden Naga royalty sword spirits flew over just like that. Whoosh 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 whoosh. The sword spirits crazily cut at the two large eyeballs on top of Demon King Su Yanwentian's head. However, it was useless. Those two eyeballs were still under the protection of the Chaos Emperor armor. Even though it looked like these two large eyes had completely protruded out, they were still under the Chaos Emperor armor. The Naga royalty sword spirit still could not cause any damage. All the attacks were blocked by the Chaos Emperor armor. Of course, the Naga royalty sword spirit did not have any destructive effect on the Demon King's mental attack. In fact, this was normal. This was because the mental and energy systems were completely different categories. It was impossible to use an energy attack to destroy a mental attack. The Demon King's transformation weakened his martial arts and strengthened his mental attribute. Yang Dingtian's side was completely helpless. This was because whether it was the Sea Snake Empress, the Naga Shuang, or Yang Dingtian, none of them were of the mental attribute. Of course, the Demon King Wendian was not of the mental attribute either, but the Speechless Clan's Su Yan could. Only now did Yang Dingtian know that the Speechless Clan could transform and possess both mental and physical attributes. No wonder the Speechless Clan was so intelligent. Seeing that the Naga royalty sword spirit's attack was completely ineffective, the Demon King immediately laughed out loud and continued to tear at the Sea Snake Empress crazily. It was torn to the extreme, to the extreme. The Sea Snake Empress's beautiful body had already been pulled to a terrifying extent. Bang! Finally, the Sea Snake Empress was torn apart alive and instantly turned into pieces. Yang Dingtian's heart trembled, but he was completely unable to move. Although he and the Sea Snake Empress had no feelings for each other before, and she had always been indifferent to him, she was still Poisa's mother, and she had only encountered this calamity because she was helping him fight. Could it be that she was going to die just like that? Yang Dingtian's heart felt as if it was about to be torn apart. He really didn't know how he was going to explain this to Poisa. Although Poisa appeared cold, she was very delicate and sensitive. She had a great need for emotions. The appearance of the Sea Snake Empress gave her a strong sense of happiness. The feeling of having another family member made her very happy. Although she didn't express it very obviously, Yang Dingtian could clearly feel it. Now, in order to help him, the Sea Snake Empress had died just like that? Just as Yang Dingtian was about to be torn apart, the shattered Sea Snake Empress and countless energy bodies once again condensed in the air. Then, it completely recovered and became whole again. She had been resurrected once again. Yang Dingtian was completely shocked, and Demon King Su Yan was even more shocked. How is this possible? How could this be? Vulture had clearly been immobilized, and his profound energy and energy sea could not move. How could he still revive the Sea Snake Empress? Immediately after, Yang Dingtian and Demon King both thought of it. Celestial spirit masters also relied on their mental strength to revive energy creatures, not their profound energy and energy sea. Of course, Vulture's cultivation had broken through to the saint level, and his mental strength had also skyrocketed. However, although his entire body was immobilized, his consciousness and soul were still moving freely, so he could still revive the Sea Snake Empress. Therefore, Demon King used a mental attack to immobilize everyone. It was very powerful, very stunning. However, it was useless. The situation was still the same, but the attack on Demon King had stopped. Even if Demon King killed the Sea Snake Empress time and time again, Vulture would still revive her time and time again. Of course, the most important thing was that in order to immobilize everyone, the Demon King's mental strength crazily surged out. It wouldn't be long before his mental strength was completely exhausted. If that was the case, he would be in a complete tragedy. Thus, Demon King gave up on the Sea Snake Empress with incomparable grief and indignation. Once again, he crazily attacked the energy barrier in the middle, hoping to rush over and capture Yang Dingtian, then escape without a trace. Boom, boom, boom. He desperately squeezed the energy barrier. Even though the entire energy barrier and the entire ground were trembling violently, the 10,000 meters of ground beneath their feet had been completely shattered. However, the energy barrier was still incomparably sturdy. This was because Naga Shuang had been continuously injecting profound energy into the energy barrier. Demon King's heart was filled with anger and unwillingness. His mental attack had clearly immobilized Naga's body, but why couldn't he immobilize her energy sea and profound veins? She could still continuously inject profound energy into the energy barrier. In that case, unless Naga's profound energy was completely exhausted, the energy barrier would not be broken at all. Thus, the Demon King was once again in a deadlock. He couldn't leave, and it was useless to immobilize everyone. The Sea Snake Empress couldn't be killed. He could immobilize Vulture's body, but he couldn't immobilize her soul and consciousness. He could still continuously resurrect the Sea Snake Empress. This was the most disgusting battle that the Demon King had ever experienced. The Sea Snake Empress, Naga Shuang, and the Celestial Spirit Master Vulture. He wasn't afraid of any one of them, and he still had a chance of winning. However, when these three were combined, they became so heaven-defying and unsolvable. Demon King really regretted it now. Why did he help Vulture, this little bitch, at that time? He gave her the powerful body of Shura, gave her the soul-gathering shadow, and instantly turned her into an incomparably powerful celestial spirit master. However, not only did Vulture not make any contributions to the evil ways, in the blink of an eye, she patted her butt and threw herself into Yang Dingtian's embrace. Then she turned around and fiercely bit him. If it wasn't for Vulture today, he would have already won. This little bitch, with a bite she would bite into the bone. However, at this moment, little by little, Naga Shuang's body began to move again. Naga, as expected of Naga. His spirit immobilization technique could freeze her for a moment, but it couldn't last forever. She recovered little by little. Moreover, her eyes were filled with towering anger. This kind of anger made even the Demon King feel incomparable fear. Naga Shuang looked down on any human, but now she was actually immobilized by Su Yantian. This was a great humiliation. He must be torn to pieces alive to relieve Naga Shuang's hatred. Kacha! Naga Shuang recovered inch by inch. While the Demon King was almost frightened out of his wits, she completely recovered. I don't care who you are, whether you are a human or a disgusting and ugly octopus, you are dead today. Naga Shuang slowly flew into the sky and said word by word, "What bullshit, Demon King, you dare to offend me today, you are dead." Then Naga Shuang in the air suddenly turned into a stream of light, like a slingshot, fiercely colliding with the Demon King. Boom, there was a loud noise. Immediately, the Demon King flew out. Then Naga Shuang, hundreds of meters away, opened her four claws and crazily tore at the octopus-like Demon King. Roar, roar! She opened her terrifying mouth and crazily bit. Holding his octopus body high, she swung and smashed with all her might. Bang, 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 bang. At this time, the first dark domain seemed to have suffered a violent earthquake. The entire ground trembled and trembled. Naga lifted the Demon King's body, and every time she smashed it down, the entire ground would immediately have a few thousand meters deep abyss. The solid ground was torn into countless cracks. The elemental creatures of the first dark domain desperately drilled out and fled frantically. The entire first dark domain seemed to have encountered the end of the world. A furious Naga was so terrifying. The octopus form of the Demon King, whose martial arts cultivation was weak, was caught by Naga without the slightest ability to resist. Just like that, he was violently ravaged. In the sky and on the ground, he was crazily beaten. And his spirit immobilization technique had long lost its effect under such a violent beating. Soon, the sea snake empress also woke up. Roar! She also suddenly transformed from a delicate beauty to a sea snake that was hundreds of meters long. Although she was much uglier, she had also become much more ferocious. Thus, under the energy shield, seeing a Naga beast that was hundreds of meters long, a sea snake beast that was hundreds of meters long, crazily biting and ravaging a disgusting and terrifying octopus. The roar was earth-shattering. Devil King Su Yentian, who had never known fear, was now truly terrified. He was truly afraid. An enraged Naga really made people tremble. He could clearly feel that the defensive energy of his Chaos Emperor armor was rapidly decreasing. From half, to 1/3, to a quarter. Moreover, it was still rapidly decreasing. He had transformed into a spirit type, and from a wonderful move, it had become a terrible move. Now, under the crazy beating, he had no strength to fight back at all. There was a feeling that no one in the world could save him. The two violent beasts were still crazily ravaging. In fact, they no longer cared about the crazy consumption of their profound chi. The Demon King was shocked to find that his Chaos Emperor armor was almost depleted. Please don't explode. As long as the Chaos Emperor armor didn't explode, even if its defensive energy was depleted, it could still spend a long time devouring enough energy to completely recover its defensive power. For example, last time, the crazy attack of nearly 100 Saint-level expeditionary forces had greatly reduced the Chaos Emperor armor's defense, but in less than a month, after devouring countless energy, it had completely recovered. However, once it was destroyed, the Chaos Emperor armor would disappear forever. Without the Chaos Emperor armor, the Demon King had no advantage. Under the crazy beating of the two monsters, the Chaos Emperor armor became weaker and weaker. At this time, the Queen Devil Queen was still crazily launching suicidal attacks against the Sea Snake Empress, turning her into ashes again and again. Although she couldn't stop the Sea Snake Empress from attacking her man, she could at least slow it down. Devil King Su Yentian couldn't help but shudder when he saw the scene of the Devil Queen's dead concubine. Under the completely crazy attack. Soon, the Chaos Emperor armor was about to explode. There was only about 1% of its energy left. Stop, stop, stop. The Demon King screamed, Dugu Shuang, let's make a deal. The Naga Shuang sneered, you don't have any deals with me now. The Demon King shouted, yes, yes. I will give you the primordial evil spirit of the nihility Piao Ling. This way, you will have a complete primordial evil spirit. You can become stronger in an instant, and the time for you to break through to the demigod realm will be greatly shortened. The Naga Shuang immediately stopped and sneered, if I want the primordial evil spirit, can't I take it myself? The Demon King said, the primordial evil spirit is completely bound to her spirit sea, unless she is willing to give it up and separate it from her body. Otherwise, you won't be able to take it away. If you tear her apart 100 times, she will revive 100 times. Just like that time, I wanted to possess Yang Dingtian, so the evil spirit came out, and you had the chance to take it away alive. Now, you can't take away her primordial evil spirit. The Naga Shuang said, I can't take it away, but can you? The Demon King said, of course I can do it. At this moment, the Queen Devil Queen was still crazily attacking the Sea Snake Empress, and she was still smashed into pieces time and time again. The purpose was to help the Demon King and reduce the attack power he received. However, after hearing the Demon King's words, she was instantly stunned. Her entire body was completely frozen. The Naga Shuang asked, how are you going to take it away? The Demon King said, it's very simple. I will use the evil soul art to pull out her soul alive. In this way, the primordial evil spirit will also be extracted. The first layer of stripping is completed, the sea of Qi Sea and the evil spirit are separated. Then I will destroy her soul and perform the second layer of stripping. Finally, I will give you this half of the primordial evil spirit, and you will have the complete primordial evil spirit. As soon as these words came out, the Queen Devil Queen, or the Nihility Piao Ling, was completely shocked on the spot as if she had been struck by lightning. Chapter 1132. In fact, the Devil Queen couldn't even react in time. The Demon King's words, to her, were like a voice from beyond the heavens, unreal. Their relationship had spanned more than 200 years. Perhaps the soul of the Demon King in front of her had already become incomparably complicated. But in the end, it was still Wentian's. No matter if it was the Wentian of Earth or the crippled Wentian of the evil ways in the primal chaos world. This Demon King in front of her, no matter how many times he had changed, the soul of this Demon King's body was still Wentian. Not Yongxi, not Su Yan. Yongxi's soul had long been shattered. As for Su Yan's soul, it had long been destroyed by the dark energy and was suppressed in a corner, trembling. 200 years ago, the Wentian that fell in love with Nihility Piao Ling was the combination of Earth's Wentian and the Wentian of the alien world. She had never been able to differentiate clearly, nor did she want to, nor could she differentiate clearly. In terms of love, Nihility Piao Ling had never betrayed her. Ever since she had been demonized, she had never left. Even when Yang Dingtian had once obtained complete victory and was willing to accept her return, she had resolutely chosen to be loyal to her love. Even if the consequence of that was death. And just now, she had once again rejected Yang Dingtian's invitation to return. She completely had a reason to return. She was originally the successor of the Nihility race. Furthermore, she was Dongfang Bingling's teacher. After demonizing into the Devil Queen, although she wasn't very outstanding and had lost 2 world extermination wars, she was still loyal to him. But at the very least, she was wholeheartedly loyal to the Devil King and the Evil Dao. Just now, she would rather choose to live and die with her lover, so she had chosen to come over. Again and again, she had launched a suicidal attack, turning herself into ashes. It was all to fight side by side with her man, to save the Demon King. Although she hadn't done it, she had done her best. In other words, for her love, Devil Queen had sacrificed everything, including her own life. The word betrayal, she had never thought of it. Not only had she never thought of herself, she had also never thought of the Demon King. This was the world's most solid love. How could there be betrayal? However, this solid faith, with the Demon King's casual words, turned to ashes. When the Demon King said that he would use the evil soul art to deal with her, he said that he would destroy her sea of qi and her soul. His tone was calm, without any fluctuations. After a long while, all of his senses seemed to have returned to his body from his surroundings. Only then did she remember why she had felt so uneasy before she came out of the dark crevice. He felt even more uneasy than Crown Prince Li Ming. So this was the source. This was a huge trap. However, it wasn't the trap that Yang Dingtian had set up. It was the Devil King's trap. Sheet. T. What T? Why did he insist on bringing her to the first dark domain to fight against Yang Dingtian? There was no reason at all. Although the Infernal Queen's cultivation level was powerful, she was clearly superfluous in this battle at the 24th level. If Yang Dingtian hadn't found the Naga Shuang, the Demon King could have won effortlessly and captured Yang Dingtian. There was no need for her, the Devil Queen, to come. If Yang Dingtian had found the Naga Shuang, or even stronger helpers, Queen Devil Queen, there was no need for her to come either, because she couldn't help it all and would even become a burden. Reality had proven this point. She, the Queen Devil Queen, couldn't even defeat Yang Dingtian. Even though she tried her best to commit suicide again and again, shattering her bones again and again, she couldn't even slow down the Sea Snake Empress's attacks. Even though her attacks were tragic, they were useless. Everyone present treated her as if she didn't exist. There was no need for her to come at all, so why did the Demon King insist on bringing her here? The reason was simple. He wanted to bring her here as a bargaining chip. At the crucial moment, he wanted to use her to trade to sacrifice her. This wasn't something the Demon King came up with on the spur of the moment. He had planned this long ago. If the situation became worse, he would do this. The Devil Queen couldn't hold it in anymore. When Ian, didn't you say that there are two kinds of feelings that are eternal and single-minded? One is spiritual sustenance, and the other is the responsibility to protect. And I am your spiritual sustenance. Without me, you will forever fall into the dark abyss, without a trace of happiness. The Demon King didn't answer her. Instead, he stared at the Naga Shuang and asked, "Deal? Deal or no deal?" The Devil Queen hissed, "Answer me." Yang Dingtian looked at the Naga Shuang and said, "Shuang, don't agree. I won't allow it." This was the first time Yang Dingtian had used a commanding tone to the Naga Shuang. The Naga Shuang frowned slightly. She stopped her attacks and sneered, "Then deal." The Demon King was overjoyed. The Sea Snake Empress was astonished. Then she continued to attack the Demon King crazily. The Naga Shuang ordered, "Sea Snake, stop attacking." Even though she was astonished and confused, the Sea Snake Empress couldn't disobey Naga's order. She stopped her attacks and even transformed back into her human form. Her face was filled with disbelief and shock as she looked at the Naga Shuang. The Demon King calmly transformed from his octopus form back into his human form. His powerful spiritual ability disappeared and was replaced by incomparably powerful martial strength. He looked at the Devil Queen and opened his demon claws. Yang Dingtian shouted, "Shuang, don't make the deal. Stop him, do you hear me?" The Naga Shuang turned a deaf ear and only stared at the Demon King. Yang Dingtian said sternly, "Shuang, stop the Demon King." The Naga Shuang said, "Husband, do you still want to save the Devil Queen?" Yang Dingtian roared, "Even if the Devil Queen deserves to die, she should die in our hands, not the Demon King's." The Naga Shuang turned her face away and didn't respond. Whoosh! The Demon King's hands suddenly opened and sucked the Demon Queen's undead concubine over. The Devil Queen looked at the other party and didn't resist at all. She asked word by word, "Didn't you say that I was your spiritual sustenance? Without me, will you fall into the dark abyss without a trace of beauty in your heart?" The Demon King said indifferently, "Don't you know that my heart has long fallen into the abyss? What beauty is there?" After saying that, his eyes instantly turned dark green. An incomparably terrifying energy overflowed from his hand. In the entire space, ghosts wailed and wolves howled. The entire sky suddenly darkened. Then, countless green lights suddenly drilled into the Devil Queen's body. Her soul was pulled out from her body while she was still alive. The Devil Queen, or the nothingness Piao Ling, let out an incomparably shrill and painful scream. "No!" Yang Dingtian roared and rushed over. However, he crashed into the energy wall. Previously, the energy wall in the middle was one way, and Yang Dingtian could pass through it. But now, it was changed by the Naga Shuang, so he couldn't pass through. In fact, Yang Dingtian's anger didn't come from the Devil Queen's tragic experience. He had already said that the Devil Queen refused to return, and she deserved to die. He had also decided that he wouldn't forgive the Devil Queen. His anger came from the ugliness in front of him. The Demon King and the Naga Shuang played the ugliness together. The Devil Queen deserved to die, but it should have been Yang Dingtian who did it, and definitely not the Demon King. Yang Dingtian suddenly released the dark profound flame, and was about to create a spatial door and jump over. However, in the next moment, his body was completely frozen. His energy sea and profound veins were completely frozen. The Naga Shuang directly used the energy of her cultivation to suppress him. The beautiful Devil Queen, who was as beautiful as a celestial, let out the most mournful scream in history. Her beautiful face began to distort. Her beautiful body began to distort. Huge black wings burst out of her back. Just like this, the primeval evil spirit wrapped around her soul, and bit by bit, it was pulled out alive. The evil soul art was over. In the end, the Devil Queen's soul was wrapped by the evil spirit and turned into a strange energy shadow, floating in the Demon King's hand. and the Devil Queen's magic-like celestial body, that incomparably beautiful face. She had completely turned into a walking corpse. Without the protection of the evil spirit, her body was no longer beautiful. Her entire body cracked, and her face also cracked because it was distorted too much. Her entire body was dripping with blood. On her back, the bone spurs suddenly smashed out, also dripping with blood. Bang! Her walking corpse directly smashed to the ground, motionless. The evil spirit wrapped around a soul, constantly surging in his hand. The cry of the evil spirit had already resounded throughout the entire space. Naga Shuang looked at the half of the evil spirit in the Demon King's hand. Her eyes were filled with infinite greed. Even her breathing had become heavy. "Leave it to me," Naga Shuang said to the Demon King. The Demon King slowly walked over and gently played with the half of the evil spirit in his hand. Then, he trembled and said, "Your Excellency Naga, since we've started the transaction, why don't you ask for more?" Naga Shuang said, "Tell me about it." Demon King said, "Yang Dingtan is your lover, your partner, right?" Naga Shuang said. Demon King said, "Moreover, if I'm not wrong, you're going to enter the first estrus soon, right? Once you're in estrus but not truly released, it's very disadvantageous to your cultivation, right?" When these words came out, Yang Dingtian couldn't help but be surprised. There was actually such a thing. She really didn't know. After Naga Shuang heard this, she nodded in agreement. Demon King said, "You're a force Naga, not a spiritual Naga. Only spiritual Naga won't be suffering from estrus. When you're in estrus, if you don't succeed in mating, it will cause irreparable damage to your body, right?" Naga Shuang was already very angry, but she still nodded. Chapter 1133. The Demon King said, "And Yang Dingtian's cultivation is too low. Once you mate with him, you'll lose at least half of your energy to transform his body. Not only does he have to share your demigod body, but he also has to share your powerful cultivation. He's like a parasite, isn't he?" This time, the Naga Shuang didn't nod and responded in silence. The Demon King said, "But you don't have a choice. Because there's no longer a male Naga in this world. Yang Dingtian is the only human who can make you fall in love. So, he's your only partner and can't be replaced, right?" The Naga Shuang was motionless in the air. Her body, which was hundreds of meters tall, seemed to be frozen. The Demon King said, "So you're in a dilemma. Once you mate with him, you'll lose most of your energy. And if you don't, you'll be greatly injured. Now, I have a way to satisfy both sides. Are you willing to listen?" The Naga Shuang nodded and said, "Let's hear it." The Demon King said with a smile, "You should know that my cultivation is infinitely close to that of a demigod. I don't know how much mystic chi is stored in my energy reserve, but it can only sink into the abyss of my energy reserve. Over the past 200 years, I've devoured an endless amount of energy on the throne of darkness. It can be said that if it weren't for the limitation of my talent, my cultivation and Su Yan's energy reserve would have already broken through to the demigod realm." The Naga Shuang sneered and said, "I'm not here to hear you brag. No matter if you're a lowly human or a lowly octopus, breaking through to the demigod realm is just a dream." The Demon King said, "What I want to say is that the energy stored in my body isn't inferior to yours, Your Excellency Naga. It's just that most of it can only sleep in the abyss of my energy reserve and can't be used." "And then?" the Naga Shuang asked. The Demon King said, "The reason why Yang Dingtian made you go into heat is because of the special energy in his body. It has nothing to do with his character, right?" Naga Shuang thought for a while and said, "I want to say that it has something to do with personality, but it really has nothing to do with it. Our Naga's emotions are based on the sense of energy." The Demon King said, "This way, we have the best of both worlds. I will completely destroy Yang Dingtian's soul and turn him into a walking corpse. Then I will possess his body and combine with you. How about that?" The moment these words were spoken, the expressions of the sea snake empress and vulture changed completely. Only Yang Dingtian remained expressionless. Naga Shuang asked, "You're wearing the Chaos Monarch armor, how are you going to possess someone?" The Demon King said, It's simple. Go to the Empire of Darkness. I put on the Chaos Emperor armor and Yang Dingtian's body. Together, we entered the Empire of Darkness refinement and fusion arrays. This way, we can complete the possession. My soul and all my energy will be injected into Yang Dingtian's body. Furthermore, the Chaos Emperor armor will also envelop Yang Dingtian's body, preventing this incomparably powerful energy from leaking out, and Yang Dingtian's body will not be reduced to ashes. Naga Shuang said, "How do we combine with him being enveloped by the Chaos Emperor armor?" The Demon King said, "We can find a place where the Xian pressure is incomparably strong. This way, it can balance out with the pressure in his energy reserve. Then we will combine in that place." Was there such a place? Of course there was. In the heart of the ruins of the old Naga Empire, there was Xian Qi that was hundreds of thousands of times stronger. The crystallized Xian Qi had this energy pressure. After destroying the Chaos Emperor armor there, Yang Dingtian's body would not be reduced to ashes. Then they would combine in that place. Naga Shuang could not only pass the estrus period, but also not lose energy. Instead, she could gain a lot of energy. This was indeed the best of both worlds. Demon King smiled and said, "My Queen of Naga, what do you think of my idea?" Naga Shuang said, "It is indeed the best of both worlds." Demon King said, "Then do you agree?" At this moment, the Sea Snake Empress's expression had become extremely ugly, even though she did not have any extra feelings for Yang Dingtian. But at the very least, he was a man of Naga. He was the only savior in this world. At this moment, the Demon King and Naga were openly discussing how to kill Yang Dingtian's soul and occupy his body. But Yang Dingtian was completely expressionless. As for Vulture, she was completely stunned, as if she had lost the ability to react. She had no idea how a simple matter of eliminating the Demon King would develop to this point. Demon King Yen Yen asked the sky, "Queen of Naga, what is your decision?" Naga Shuang said, "Your suggestion is not bad, but do you think I will agree? Will I betray my husband? Do you know that our loyalty and single-mindedness to our partners is eternal?" No. Demon King Yen Yen said, "Your greed for energy is eternal. The reason why you are loyal to your partners is because you share cultivation and fate. Moreover, once Naga combines, their combat strength is greater than 2. Because in the Naga Empire, there are no families and almost no descendants, so in order to compete for more energy, they have to combine. If they fight alone, they are very likely to lose. Therefore, this is the reason why Naga are loyal to their partners. It has nothing to do with feelings." Demon King Yen Yen smiled and said, "So, I think you will agree." Naga Shuang smiled and said, "If that is the case, why are you still asking for my decision?" Demon King Yen Yen smiled and said, "It is better to ask clearly." Naga Shuang said, "I have already said that I agree to the deal." Even though this sentence was still not very clear. Demon King Yen Yen Wenyan did not have the slightest intention of forcing her, because there was already an irreparable crack between Naga and Yang Dingtian. Naga Shuang waved and said, "Give me the evil spirit of the primordial beginning." Demon King Yen Yen said, "Of course, but I think you can slightly express your sincerity." Naga Shuang said, "I have already stopped attacking you. Your Chaos Emperor armor does not even have 1% of its energy left. What do you want from me?" Demon King Yen Yen went and said, "For example, remove the energy wall in the middle." Sea Snake Empress said, "Master Naga, you can't." At this moment, Yang Dingtian said to the spirit vulture, "Enter my ring." Vulture's expression changed, and it turned into a stream of light and drilled into Yang Dingtian's space ring. Naga Shuang stretched out her hand and said slowly, "Since I've agreed, it naturally counts. Give me the evil spirit of the primordial beginning." Demon King Yen Yen Wenin hesitated for a moment, and then his hand gently loosened. Whoosh! The evil spirit of the primordial beginning, which was wrapped in Devil Queen's soul, flew into Naga Shuang's hand. Naga Shuang's eyes shone brightly, and the golden light from her entire body almost burst out into the sky. Incomparable ecstasy and excitement. Then, Naga's face suddenly turned ferocious. She stretched out her sharp claws, and her terrifying claws stretched out again and again. The part that grew back was completely green energy. Squeak! Just like that, Naga's energy claws pierced into the evil spirit. Just this point alone, no human could directly pierce into the evil spirit's body. Then, Naga tore apart the evil spirit of the primordial beginning bit by bit, crushing the soul of Queen Devil Queen inside bit by bit, and finally, pulling it out bit by bit. Throughout the entire process, Queen Devil Queen's soul no longer struggled, nor did it scream or howl. All of her grief, indignation, misery, and death had been completely exhausted just now. Therefore, she did not react at all during the process of her soul being completely destroyed. Just like that, nothingness Piao Ling's soul was turned into ashes. The evil spirit of the primordial beginning was completely stripped away. Then, very directly, she swallowed the evil spirit of the primordial beginning into her mouth. Ayo! Ayo! The evil spirit of the primordial beginning entered Naga's body and instantly burst out with an incomparably resplendent white light. Naga Shuang's huge body, which was hundreds of meters long, suddenly straightened. Then, her golden body quickly grew larger. The light that burst out from her entire body surpassed 2 suns, almost completely illuminating the first dark domain. Then, she let out an incomparably excited and crazy scream. This instant of powerful energy made her lose all her rationality. She was like a dark wanderer with a huge addiction, devouring countless dark energy in an instant. In an instant, she was like an immortal, enough to make her forget everything. Finally, she turned into a stream of light and flew into the sky. The 2 halves of the evil spirit of the primordial beginning in her body had merged into one. The most powerful energy in history had erupted in her body. Ayo! Ayo! This half of the evil spirit of the primordial beginning was in Devil Queen's body. However, after entering Naga's body, the energy that burst out was completely earth-shattering. She was in the air, crazily releasing it. In the blink of an eye, she had flown thousands of miles away. She was like the sun flying wildly in the sky. Naga had completely forgotten about the battlefield here. She threw Yang Dingtian and the Sea Snake Empress on the spot. Immediately, the energy shield that he had set up disappeared without a trace. At this moment, only Yang Dingtian, the Sea Snake Empress, the Demon King, and Su Yanwenian were left in the original open space. The Demon King spread his hands at Yang Dingtian and said, "Yang Dingen, have you ever thought of this scene?" Yang Dingtian laughed at himself. He really didn't think of it. The Demon King said, "I've long said that Naga's greed for energy is eternal. What Naga is forever loyal to her partner? Only an idiot would believe such words. When you treated Naga as your savior, you were already destined to have a tragic ending." Yang Dingtian still laughed at himself. The Demon King curled his lips and said, "Actually, after Naga completes her transformation, her first estrus period will arrive. At this time, their feelings will become more and more intense. Therefore, as long as you take the initiative to tease her and then half refuse, you can combine with her. Because when she was blinded by her emotions, she forgot that she had to pay half of her energy. At that time, you can cook the rice. And when she woke up afterwards, everything was already a foregone conclusion and could not be undone. And at that time, you were already her true partner. She was really loyal to you forever because she had no other choice." Yang Dingtian had indeed thought of this possibility. The Demon King curled his lips and mocked, "But I know that you're a hypocrite. You don't care about doing such a thing. You have to wait for a woman to take the initiative and not force yourself on her. Hypocrisy really kills people. And then you were killed. If you forced yourself to combine with Naga, you would directly have an indestructible body. What chance would I have? Yang Dingen, my hypocrisy and stupidity have been seen through by you. What else is there to say?" The Demon King no longer used his blink technique. He walked over step by step and said slowly, "Yang Ding, is there anyone in the world who can save you now?" Yang Dingen, "Probably not." The Demon King said, "Then I'm very sorry. I will use the evil soul art to pull out your soul and completely destroy it. Then I will take over your body, occupy your identity, and enjoy your woman. Isn't there a saying like this? Your children, I will raise them. Your wife, I will sleep with. Yang Dingan, then my wife, Shimin Yenyan, will you also sleep with her? As soon as he said this, the Demon King paused for a moment. Yang Dingan said slowly, Your Majesty Demon King, what should I call you now? The soul in this body of yours is already unprecedentedly complex, isn't it? There is Wenyan on Earth, there is also the crippled Wenyan in the Chaos World, and there is also Su Yen who is hiding in a corner and trembling because of depravity. What about the other one? Who is it? When you leave the throne of darkness and enter a person's body, who is he? The Demon King stopped and said, Yang Ding, what do you mean by this? Yang Dingtian, the Demon King Wenyan from before had always been on the throne of darkness. He was just a ball of incomparably powerful soul energy. Later, you failed to take over my body and had no choice but to leave the empire of darkness personally. Therefore, you had to have a body. Of course, this body has to be particular. It can't be an ordinary body. You have to leave a soul imprint unique to you on his brain. This way, you can use this body without any hindrance and use his brain. Otherwise, you will be like my master Dongfang Minmi. Although he completely took over martial uncle Leng Qingshan's body, there was still a strong rejection in his brain. Therefore, his memories would shatter and become chaotic. For a long time, he was tormented. Also, Yang Yunchong took over Yang Zhang's body. Every 3 to 5 days, he would have a splitting headache and be in so much pain that he wished he was dead. Regarding this point, Yong Shi Wenyan must remember it clearly. The Demon King's face suddenly twitched. Clearly, he had awakened the relevant painful memories. He said hoarsely, Continue, continue. Yang Dingtian, the so-called soul imprint, I think it should be a kind of soul duplication. That is, completely duplicating a person's consciousness and memories and placing them in the depths of another person's brain. Usually, these consciousness and memories are completely dormant. When necessary, you can directly take over this person's body and easily activate these duplicated consciousness and memories, seamlessly connecting the soul and the body. Is it like this? His Majesty Demon King? The Demon King nodded and said, although it's not completely correct, it's not much different. This kind of body is called a contracted body. Yang Dington, I think that in the entire world, besides Empress Medusa, there shouldn't be anyone who can do soul duplication. Therefore, the original owner of this contracted body must have been to the soul-leaving palace. The Demon King nodded and said, completely correct. Yang Dington counted with his fingers and said, who has been to the soul-leaving palace? Zhu Qingzhu, Gudu Iran, Dugu Shao, and one more person. I don't know who it is. Among these 4 people, which one of them is your contracted body? The Demon King said, take a guess. Yang Dingtan, Dugu Shao, it shouldn't be. Because this kind of energy duplication may still require a completely voluntary principle. Therefore, the soul-leaving palace will use certain things in exchange to make them willingly offer their brain. For example, Dugurin obtained the body of an incomparably powerful male Shura. Zhu Qingzhu obtained the soul-devouring mystic Qi. Dugu Shao, on the other hand, didn't obtain anything. The Demon King said, at that time I thought so too. Later, I found out that he took away a baby girl. Yang Dingtian, Dugu Iran is not your contracted body. Zhu Qingzhu has disappeared for a long time. He might be. Of course, your contracted body might be another person, the 4th mysterious person who entered the soul-leaving palace. The Demon King's pupils shrank. Yang Dingan, then I guess that your contracted body is this mysterious 4th person, not Zhu Qingzhu. You guessed right. The Demon King said, continue guessing. Yang Ding, your Majesty Demon King, which soul is in charge of your body now? Earth asks the heavens, the chaos world asks the heavens? Or the contracted body? The Demon King smiled. The contracted body. When the time is up, his soul will completely disappear. How can he make the decision? Yang Dingan, what if he is very smart? For example, before the time is up, he lets someone use the soul-devouring mystic Qi to destroy himself and then completely freeze himself? This way, he will be completely between death and not death. Maybe he will escape the time limit and his soul won't be destroyed? This is called being put on the brink of death to live. When these words came out, the Demon King's expression changed. He even involuntarily took half a step back. Yang Dingtian, we all know that whether it is Earth's Wention or the Chaos World's Wention, their souls have been destroyed and split countless times. They are already incomplete. Therefore, they are basically going to lose. As for Su Yan's soul, because it has been swallowing dark energy for a long time, it has long been hiding in the corner of its brain and shivering. Among all the souls in this body, only you are complete and strong. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. In this battle of souls, I am very optimistic about you, father-in-law. In an instant, the Demon King's eyes burst out with a trembling light. Yang Dingtian slowly said, "My master, Dongfang Minmi, had his cultivation destroyed by you and was imprisoned in the world of ice and snow. Otherwise, how could it be so coincidental that I met you in the world of ice and snow? Why did you take such a big detour to go from Cloud Sky City to Inyang School? There was no need to go through the world of ice and snow." The Demon King's breathing gradually calmed down after being extremely chaotic. Yang Dingnan, also, when you first met me, you wanted to pass down the Lord of Cloud Sky City to me and betroth Yanyan to me. It doesn't make sense. Now that I think about it, I must have said something in Earth's Chinese when I was unconscious. Chapter 1134. Yang Dingtian said, "In this world, other than the Demon King's people, only his contracted bodies can understand Chinese. That's because you have all of the Demon King's memories in your heads." The Demon King was silent for a long time before asking, "Did Dongfang Minmi tell you? Did he recognize me?" Yang Dingtan said, "No, Master never told me. In fact, even after he revived, the memories in his head were already incomplete. I don't know if he recognized you. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But after he revived, he basically never talked to me about you." The Demon King said, "Then, how did you guess?" Yang Dingtian said, "First, when he was in Cloud Sky City, Shimin Wuya didn't have enough talent because he cultivated a 9th grade martial technique, so he didn't make any progress. He was already in his 20s, but he still didn't have any prospects. If this continued, even if he and Yang Pei loved each other, they definitely wouldn't be together. So, he left his hometown. I don't know if he was escaping or looking for a fortuitous encounter. After a few years, he came back and his cultivation improved by leaps and bounds. From a trash that was looked down upon by others, he became a top-notch expert. He successfully won the heart of a beauty and became the Lord of Cloud Sky City." The Demon King said, "What does this prove? It's just a fortuitous encounter. Are your fortuitous encounters any less than mine?" Yang Dinggan said, "I have many fortuitous encounters, but they were all destined, as if they were arranged by the hands of the heavens. So, your so-called fortuitous encounter is probably the same. It's just a transaction where you sold your soul." The Demon King said, "Just because of my sudden rise, you suspect me? This reason isn't enough." Yang Dingtian said, "Then the second reason is that when you and I met for the first time, you wanted me to be the successor to the Lord of Cloud Sky City and betrothed Yanyan to me. You even sacrificed your own life in order to save me. Of course, I admit that there are indeed very noble people in this world. But later on, I learned that when you were the Lord of Cloud Sky City, your methods were extremely cruel when you quelled the rebellion. You could be considered an ambitious and ruthless person. Would an ambitious and ruthless person sacrifice his life for a young man he just met? Although this is very shocking, it's not realistic enough." The Demon King asked, "What else? What other reasons do you have?" Yang Dingtian said, "That night, when the Devil Queen was carrying a coffin through Cloud Sky City, I went to the Hell Prison's energy array to check on Shimin Wuya's body. The substitute looked exactly the same. I couldn't tell that anything was wrong, and neither could Yanyan. However, she was stunned for a brief moment before she immediately denied it. Of course, these aren't enough reasons. The more important reason is that you didn't even blink when you killed the Devil Queen." The Demon King said, Why should I blink? I'm a dark demon king. Why should I blink when I kill a woman I once loved? There must be other reasons. Tell me. Yang Dingun was silent for a long time before saying, Shimin Ju. When you knew that there was a spy in the evil ways, you immediately knew it was Shimin Ju. Because you understood him the most. However, you couldn't take the initiative to pick him out because that would expose him. Therefore, as long as anyone comes out to expose Shimin Ju, you will immediately execute Shimin Ju. Then, you let all the evil martial artists possess the bodies of saint and half-saint demon foxes without any worries. The demon king's eyes narrowed. Continue. Yang Dingtian replied, with your suspicious character, how is it possible for you to believe whatever others say? Because you already had the answer in your mind, you just borrowed Yang Zheng's mouth to say it. It was also because you were so confident that you misjudged Yang Zheng and put the blame on him. Otherwise, with your meticulousness and cunning, how could you let Yang Zheng succeed? It was just that you were prejudiced by first impressions and believed that it was Shimin Ju. Not only that, your understanding of Yang Zheng completely exceeded the normal range. That was why you firmly believed in him and believed in his extreme hatred for me and Cloud Heaven City. If it wasn't Shimin Wuya, who would understand Shimin Ju and Yang Zheng so well? The Demon King took a deep breath and said, this reason is very sufficient. To be able to see through such a small flaw, Yang Dingtian, who said that you're not smart. You're very smart. Yang Dingtian said, everyone is smart. It's just that many people aren't willing to think of others in such a bad way, so they seem to be slow to realize it. All right. The Demon King said, since it's already like this, I won't say anything more. That's right, I'm the Demon King Wentian's contracted body, and I'm also his Dark Walker. Your master, Dongfang Minmi, was crippled by me and imprisoned in this world of ice and snow. When I was young, I overestimated my talent and cultivated a rank 9 martial technique. When I was in my 20s, my cultivation didn't improve at all, and I became a laughingstock. That was why I went to the ends of the world, and when I was on the verge of death, I was led to the soul-leaving palace. They used 20 years of glory in exchange for my soul and life. I agreed, so I turned from a trash to a genius expert. The Demon King's gaze fell into confusion and said, when I made the deal with the soul-leaving palace, I had nothing. That was why I felt that using my soul in exchange for 20 years of glory was worth it. But after the deal, I became stronger. Not only did I have a beautiful wife, I also had a cute daughter, and I even had Cloud Heaven City as my foundation. If nothing had happened after that, I would have very likely become the #1 expert in the Taekwondo League. Who would be willing to end such days? I also felt that this deal was a huge loss. This thought was very normal. Everyone was like that, greedy and greedy. The Demon King continued, but at that time, the 20-year period was about to end. The soul imprint that the Demon King Wentian left in my brain was about to completely awaken and take over my body. My soul was about to scatter in the wind. I couldn't accept it. That was why I thought of a way to survive after putting myself on the brink of death. I made Zhu Qingzhu, who was also a spy for the Demon King, attack me. He let me be hit by the soul-devouring Xian Qi. This way, I would be between death and immortality, and I would be able to escape the time limit of my soul being destroyed. Yang Dingan said, you were very lucky and you succeeded. The Demon King said, yes, I succeeded. Because only by dying could I escape from the 20-year contract. But I wasn't willing to really die, so the soul-devouring Xian Qi became the best choice. Yang Dingan said, then, you were frozen in a near-death state for a few years. Waiting for the day when the Demon Queen took out your body, thawed it, and gave it to the Demon King Wenyin for possession. In the end, who knew that after the possession, there was actually a Shimin Wuya's soul hidden inside? The Demon King said, yes, and it was a complete soul. Yang Dingan, you haven't stayed in the brain world before, so you don't know how wonderful it is inside. The human brain is like a complete boundless universe, incomparably large and incomparably complicated. Yang Dingtian said, I know, of course I know. I have entered my own brain world before. It is full of mystery and infinite traps. The Demon King sneered and said, no, You still don't know. You haven't experienced the battle of the brain world. After the Demon King took over my body and put on the Chaos Emperor armor, my soul and his began a fierce battle for possession of his soul. His soul was incomplete, so my chances of winning were higher. However, for our common goal, our two souls temporarily stopped fighting. I will temporarily lay low and allow the Demon King to take control of my body. In the end, he stayed on the throne of darkness for too long. His soul was already numb, and he actually fell into your hands. Yang Dingtian said, then, when we were about to execute the Demon King Wenian, we didn't expect Su Yan's soul to fall and be possessed by Eternal Farewell Wenian. Then, Eternal Farewell Wenian, who schemed, finally completely occupied this powerful Demon King's body. The Demon King smiled and said, yes, when Su Yan and the Demon King's bodies merged into one. The souls in this brain world were unprecedentedly complicated. There were Wenian from the Chaos world, Wenian from Earth, and Su Yan who had fallen. However, their souls were either incomplete or depraved and pale. Only my soul in this body is absolutely complete and powerful. That Eternal Farewell Wenian thought that he had everything, but he didn't expect that the mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. Therefore, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. After a few months, I completely occupied the absolute control of this body. Yang Dingtian said, then what about Wenian from the Chaos world and Wenian from Earth? The Demon King said, in the corner of the brain world, hibernating. Yang Dingtian said, in other words, the Demon King is now completely under your control. Then, can I call you Shiman? Bia. Demon King Shiman Wia, what a sarcastic name. Absolutely, and I guarantee that this will be the last name for the Demon King. The Demon King said slowly, it was me who had the last laugh. They crazily fought over this Demon King's body, and in the end, it fell into my hands. Yang Dingtian said, it was as if the 3 kingdoms were fighting for hegemony, and in the end, the world fell into the hands of the Sima clan. The Demon King said with a smile, I know the romance of the 3 kingdoms. I can recite it backwards from the memories of Earth's Wenian. Yang Dingtian bowed to him and said, I pay my respects to father-in-law. Well said. The Demon King said, although you and I are father and son-in-law, I'm sorry, but this body of yours was chosen by the god of chaos, and I've been eyeing it for many, many years. Otherwise, I wouldn't have betrothed my daughter to you. Therefore, I still want to destroy your soul and occupy your body. Yang Dingtian said, and then occupy my wife, including Yen Shiman? The Demon King suddenly twitched, but in the end, he didn't say anything. Yang Dingtian said, Shiman Wia, why did you do all this? Don't tell me that you don't even want your daughter and wife for the sake of power? Where is your soul, your heart? No. The Demon King Shiman Wia laughed and said, don't give me chicken soup for the soul. The moment I used my soul to trade in the soul-leaving palace, I already had no heart. As I said, I fell into the dark abyss long ago. What emotions, what family, they are all empty. Only strength, only self, only energy are eternal. Even the Naga knows this. I can't be worse than an animal. Then, as if drunk, the Demon King Shiman Wia greedily sniffed this intoxicating aura and said, Yang Dingtian, I went from being a trash that was ridiculed by others to today's situation and become the new Demon King. Moreover, I'm about to mate with the Naga and become a demigod. In the future, I can even become the ruler of this world and become a new god. Isn't this a miracle? I can even do such a miracle, I really have a feeling of floating in the air. All right. The Demon King once again walked forward step by step and said, the past is the past. Let's look at the present. The rolling waters of the Yangtze River flow to the east, the waves drown the heroes. The Demon King's every step was a poem from Earth. It seemed like Earth's Beta Wentian's literary reserves were very rich. Wenian won't do, Nihility Piao Ling won't do, Yongxi won't do, Demon's Wrath II won't do, Yao Qi won't do, Su Yan won't do, Dongfang Minmi won't do, Zhu Qingzhu won't do, Duguxiao won't do, Qin Wanchou won't do. The Demon King Shiman Wia walked in front of Yang Dingtian and lightly grabbed his neck. Raising him up high, he said, Yang Dingnan, I really want to say that sentence in the Romance of the Three Kingdoms. Haha. The Demon King Shimenwia said, I really want to say, the heroes of the world are only you, Yang Dingtian, and I, Shimenwia. However, you Yang Dingtan still won't do. Of course, even if you, Yang Dingtian, are Liu Bei, then the Demon King Wenin is only Cao Cao. Then I, Shimenwia, will bear with it and be Sima Yi for once. Yang Dingtian's neck was grabbed, and he said hoarsely, Romance of the Three Kingdoms, you are indeed familiar with it. The Demon King Shimenwia said, I have no choice, it's too boring and lonely. I can only look for books to read in Wentian's memories. Yang Dingtan said, On earth, there is a saying, the young don't read the water margin, the old don't read the Romance of the Three Kingdoms. I'm not old yet, I'm still in my prime. The Demon King Shimenwia laughed loudly and said, After I become a half-god, I will strip off this Chaos Emperor armor and I will be able to sleep with 10 women. Don't worry, your women will be happier with me than with you. Yang Dingtan asked again, Then what about Yen Yen? The Demon King's face twitched again, and he slowly said, Yang Dingnan, when I betrothed Yen Yen to you, my heart felt like it was being cut by a knife. The Demon King said, Time's up, go on your way, go on your way. I want your body, I will enjoy the peerless Naga body, I will also kindly accept the body of a half-god, go on your way. Suddenly, the Demon King's face twisted, and his eyes burst out with a fierce light. His demon claws were suddenly placed on Yang Dingtian's head. The entire space was instantly filled with wails and howls. Between heaven and earth, a cold wind blew, and black clouds pressed down. The Demon King's hands suddenly overflowed with a terrifying green light, and it suddenly drilled into Yang Dingtian's brain. Evil soul art. The Demon King Shimenwia wanted to extract Yang Dingtian's soul and turn him into a walking corpse. The entire world seemed to be distorted. Countless ghosts seemed to be floating down from the sky and drilling out from the ground. Yang Dingtian's face was torn and distorted. The soul in his brain was about to be stripped away inch by inch. Chapter 1135. No one in this world can save you, Your Excellency Yang Dingtian, Demon King Shimenwia said slowly. Yang Dingtian's soul, spirit and willpower were struggling desperately. You were just one step away, just one step away. Demon King Shimenwia said, At that time, the body of the Naga Dugu Shuang was right in front of you. Why didn't you take the initiative? Why didn't you take the initiative? As long as you took the initiative, you would be invincible. Yang Dingtian couldn't hold on any longer. And the figure of the Naga Dugu Shuang was still infinitely far away, just a golden dot of light. Yang Dingtian could even feel that his soul was being stripped from his brain inch by inch. Then, it was being torn and screamed as it was being dragged out of his body. Countless evil spirits stretched out their disgusting claws and dragged his soul. Soon, his soul would be destroyed and he would become a walking corpse. People said that before they died, they would play a movie in their mind and reenact all the things they had experienced in their life. But Yang Dingtian didn't have that now. The only thing in his mind was to resist, and resist. The black-green dragon in the depths of his energy reserve was still indifferent and had no intention of making a move. It didn't matter at all if Yang Dingtian's soul was destroyed. As long as his body was not destroyed, it was fine. What did the life and death of Yang Dingtian's soul have to do with it? Demon King Shimenwia roared and used all his spiritual power to roar, Yang Ding, go to hell. No one in this world can save you. At this time, the Sea Snake Empress, who had been quiet on the side, suddenly roared, Who said that? Then she suddenly turned into a stream of light and turned into a huge shadow of a sea snake in the air, fiercely crashing into Demon King's body. Boom! It was like a comet hitting the earth and also like a nuclear bomb exploding. It was an earth-shattering explosion. Once again, the ground within tens of thousands of meters was peeled off layer by layer and then turned into ashes. Demon King Shimenwia was still strangling Yang Dingtian. Their bodies flew out tens of thousands of meters like straw. The Sea Snake Empress's body was instantly turned into ashes. At the same time, the Chaos Emperor armor on Demon King Shimen Wuya's body shook slightly. Then, it suddenly turned into a ray of light and shattered. Boom 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 boom. The entire primal Chaos Emperor armor was made from more than 1,000 devil spirits. It was a primal Chaos Emperor armor with unparalleled defensive power. Just like that, he was reduced to ashes and completely exploded. The primal Chaos Emperor armor that required thousands of martial saints to exhaust their cultivation bases to destroy. Under the crazy attacks of Naga and the Sea Snake Empress, especially Naga Shuanga, who had an incomparably shocking energy attack, Shimen Wuya. Then, it Wuya. It was finally completely destroyed, turning into countless energy fragments that scattered in the endless sky and earth of the first dark realm. Demon King Shimen Wuya was naked in the air. At first, he was completely shocked, the kind of shock that his clothes were suddenly torn off. And Yang Dingtian also saw his face and body. It was unprecedentedly ugly and strange. This body was a mixture of Su Yen and Shimen Wuya. Humans didn't look like humans, and the Silent Clan didn't look like the Silent Clan. His entire face was still that of Shimen Wuya. However, he was no longer as handsome and valiant as before. Instead, his face was curved. Not only his face, but his body was also surging and changing all the time. One moment he would show the characteristics of the Silent Clan, and the next moment he would show the characteristics of Shimen Wuya. When Su Yan's face and Shimen Wuya's face were completely mixed together, it was fine. It was just ugly. However, when the two faces were separated, that was not just ugly, but completely disgusting. A face with 2 noses, 2 mouths, and 4 eyes. This was the most disgusting face and the ugliest body that Yang Dingtian had ever seen. Perhaps, this was the face of the ultimate Demon King. Not only was it ugly, it was disgusting and strange. Seeing Yang Dingtian's surprised gaze, Demon King Shimen Wuya's face twisted as he roared, "What are you looking at? What are you looking at? I know I'm ugly, but so what? I'm going to snatch your body soon." Then, Demon King Shimen Wuya looked at the surrounding air with incomparable hatred, as if he was looking for the Sea Snake Empress. He roared, "Is this Sea Snake Empress out of her mind? Didn't she hear that Naga ordered him to stop? Idiot, idiot, idiot." That's right, the Sea Snake Empress had never shown any affection for Yang Dingtian. She only obeyed Naga's orders. Naga told her to stop, so she stopped. But who would have thought that at the last moment, she would still make a move? Furthermore, it was a suicidal attack. No one knew what she was thinking, but in the end, she still made a move. Yang Dingtian desperately wanted to pull Vulture out of the spatial ring and revive the Sea Snake Empress. However, he could not do it. His entire body was controlled. As for the spirit Vulture, it had always been in a deep slumber within the spatial ring. When the Sea Snake Empress attacked and used a suicidal attack to destroy Demon King Shimen Wuya's Chaos Emperor armor, Yang Dingtian was completely stunned. He looked at this scene in disbelief. The Demon King had already fallen into madness. Without the Chaos Emperor armor, when his ugliest face and body were exposed, he seemed to be extremely uneasy. "I don't have the Chaos Emperor armor anymore, but so what? I'm still close to a demigod. I can still easily destroy your soul and take over your body." The Demon King Shimen Wuya desperately grabbed Yang Dingtian's throat and roared, "You keep saying, what about Yen Yen? What about Yen Yen? I'm here to tell you officially that I'll raise your child. Your wife I'll sleep with. Are you satisfied? I can even tell you that everything is mine, all the beauties are mine, all. Whether it's your subordinates, your daughters, as long as they're beauties, they're all mine." Then, the crazy Demon King Shimen Wuya continued to activate the evil soul art and continued to extract Yang Dingtian's soul. Yang Dingtian did not struggle or resist. He gathered all his spirit and soul to control the Chaos Emperor Grade's soul sword. The Demon King's Chaos Emperor armor had exploded. The indestructible Chaos Emperor armor had exploded. Then, the time of his death had arrived. Whoosh! Yang Dingtian's soul sword suddenly separated. 10,000 swords returned to sect. Whoosh 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 whoosh. Countless sword spirits that were almost invisible to the naked eye. Darkness, profound fire sword spirit. It didn't look like a sword, only a thin darkness, profound fire. Darkness to the extreme, like a black hole, the darkness, profound fire sword spirit. Whoosh 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 whoosh, crazy, brutal, lightning fast. In the blink of an eye. Tens of thousands of swords, hundreds of thousands of swords. The energy of the demigod sea spirit crystal in the emperor-grade soul sword surged out fiercely through the 1,000 miles profound vein essence. An unprecedented wave of attacks. If it was a human with a cultivation close to the demigod level, it would take a very long time to exhaust all the energy in the Qi. However, the body of the emperor-grade soul sword was countless times more than that of a human. The emperor-grade soul sword's profound vein was countless times more than that of a human. In an instant, all the energy passed through countless profound vein exits. It could surge out in an instant. Hundreds of thousands of darkness, profound fire sword. Only attack one place. That was the Demon King Shimen Wuya's Qi. Even if the Demon King had a cultivation close to the demigod level, he was completely unable to dodge this instantaneous attack. Because he didn't have the Chaos Emperor armor anymore. Whoosh 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 whoosh. Hundreds of thousands of darkness, profound fire sword spirits attacked. From the beginning to the end, it was less than half a second. Then, the energy in the Chaos Emperor grade soul sword was almost completely exhausted. After the Demon King Shimen Wuya reacted, he was completely stunned. He didn't even feel it, only that his stomach seemed to be a little empty. Looking down, there seemed to be another trace of darkness in his stomach's Qi. It was very thin, almost invisible to the naked eye. But it was very deep, completely penetrating the entire Qi world. His Qi world was very deep and thick. How thick was it? In theory, his Qi wall, in a narrow space, was thousands of miles, tens of thousands of miles thick. Because this was Su Yentian's Qi, which was also the Demon King's Qi. It had been devoured in the Throne of Darkness for 200 years. In theory, it was impossible to break through. However, Yang Dingtian did it. The energy that was close to the demigod level was guaranteed to be on par with the level of the Demon King's Qi. The Chaos Emperor grade soul sword, coupled with the powerful darkness, profound fire. With these three added together, he finally tore open the wall of his Qi. The Demon King was completely stupefied, panicked, and horrified. He loosened his grip. Yang Dingtian's body retreated like lightning. At the same time, he used the fastest time to awaken the vulture in the spatial ring. Quickly revive the Sea Snake Empress. Yang Dingtian said loudly. When the vulture came out of the spatial ring and saw the scene in front of it, it was first surprised. After hearing Yang Dingtian's words, it released its spiritual energy with all its might, desperately reviving the Sea Snake Empress. At this time, it had already been a few seconds since the Sea Snake Empress turned into ashes. However, the vulture was still gathering the Sea Snake Empress's energy bit by bit, turning it into an extremely faint shadow. At this time, the Demon King, Shimen Wuya, reached out to touch his Qi in his stomach and said with a terrified expression, Yang Ding, save me, I don't want to die, I can't die. His panicked face didn't look like a peerless expert at all. Instead, it looked more like the Shimen Wuya from decades ago, who had cultivated a 9th-grade martial technique because of greed and didn't break through at all. It was more like the Shimen Wuya who was mocked by everyone in Cloud Sky City and fled in panic. It was more like the Shimen Wuya who was on the verge of death and was summoned to the soul-leaving palace. It was more like the Shimen Wuya who agreed to sell his soul in order to survive. But no matter which one it was, there was only one word for him: weakness. That's right, weakness. One fled in panic, and the other sold his soul. No matter how powerful his cultivation became later on, in the depths of his soul, in his bones, he was weak and cowardly. When death came, all the masks of strength would be stripped clean. Only fear, and trembling were left. At this time, the Demon King, Shimen Wuya, even forgot to attack Yang Dingtian. Instead, he stared at him as if he was looking at a life-saving straw. He covered his Qi as if he wanted to stop the bleeding, to stop the countless profound qi energy from crazily overflowing. Yang Ding, save me, I don't want to die, I don't want to die. His voice trembled as he repeated the words over and over again. At the same time, the golden light on the horizon was quickly approaching from afar. Nagashwanger had finally ended her self-indulgence of the original evil spirit unification. She finally remembered the battlefield on this side and quickly stopped. When she was 100 miles away, she saw this scene and saw the Demon King surging out of his Qi Sea. Immediately, the Naga Shuang roared, "Stop, Yang Ding, stop, you're not allowed to kill the Demon King." Then, an earth-shattering energy shield suddenly enveloped him. She tried to cover all the energy that the Demon King was crazily overflowing and not dissipate. However, it was all in vain. The Demon King, Shimen Wuya, lowered his head sadly and smiled bitterly at Yang Dingtian. A dream of grandeur, boom. A shocking ray of light shot out. It illuminated all the dark domain within 10,000 miles. The Demon King, Shimen Wuya, turned into ashes and shattered bones. Brothers. Chapter 1136. Naga Shuang desperately used an energy shield to cover it, but she still could not stop the crazy energy overflowing from the Demon King's Sea of Qi. The energy in the Demon King's Sea of Qi was extremely shocking. After the explosion, even if Yang Dingtian retreated tens of thousands of meters, he was still blown away. And within 1,000 miles, the concentration of internal force suddenly increased by more than 1,000 times. Naga Shuang, like the biggest miser, first used a 10,000-meter energy shield to cover it. Then she quickly drilled into the energy shield, desperately devouring the dissipated internal force energy inside. This scene reminded Yang Dingtian of the drunkard accidentally smashing the jar, and the wine flowed all over the ground. The drunkard did not care how dirty the ground was, and immediately lay down to lick the flowing wine. In fact, the Demon King's astonishing Sea of Qi had already lost most of its energy at the moment of explosion. Even if Naga Shuang devoured all the internal force in the energy shield now, it would not be able to compare to 1/10 of the amount he devoured in the core of the Naga Empire ruins. After devouring crazily and greedily for a while, Naga realized that this kind of devouring was useless and only made her look ugly. She suddenly turned into her human form, rushed in front of Yang Dingen, and hissed, "Why did you kill him? Why did you kill him? Didn't you hear what I said?" Yang Dingtian stared at her and did not answer her. Instead, he asked Vulture next to him, "Where is the Sea Snake Empress?" Vulture said with a sad expression, "Her energy had already dissipated. I resurrected too late, but I could still barely condense an incomplete and weak soul energy." But then, the Demon King's Sea of Qi exploded, and she was completely annihilated. Yang Dingtian's heart trembled. In other words, the Sea Snake Empress was dead? Poise's mother died just like that. She had just been resurrected not long ago, and she died in battle for Yang Dingtian? Although their relationship was not very close, Yang Dingtian still felt a heart-wrenching pain. Such a peerless expert, who did not owe Yang Dingtian anything, died just like that? Why did she die? Firstly, it was because of Yang Dingtian. She had died to help Yang Dingtian. Secondly, it was because of Naga. If not for Naga forgetting righteousness at the sight of Prophet and successfully destroying the Demon King's Primal Chaos Emperor armor, and Yang Dingtian directly using the Dark Mystic Fire Soul Sword to kill the Demon King, nothing would have happened. The Sea Snake Empress would not die either. After Naga Shuang obtained the other half of the evil spirit from the Demon King, she was so elated that she forgot everything. No one knew if it was on purpose or if it was too high, but it disappeared without a trace. She threw Yang Dingtian to the Demon King. It could be said that if not for the Sea Snake Empress's help, Yang Dingtian would have been finished and become a walking corpse. If not for Yang Dingtian possessing the Primal Chaos Emperor Grade Soul Sword, if not for Yang Dingtian possessing the Dark Mystic Fire Sword Soul, he would have been finished. The Sea Snake Empress only owed Yang Dingtian kindness and did not owe him anything. However, she died. In an instant, Yang Dingtian wanted to vent all his anger and hatred on Naga Shuang. If not for her greed and the Demon King's deal, if not for her disappearing without a trace at the critical moment, how could the Sea Snake Empress die? How was he going to explain this to Poisa? Although Poisa pretended to be calm, it was obvious that the appearance of the Sea Snake Empress made her very happy. It meant that she had a mother from now on. It was all because of Dugu Schwanger, this greedy animal, that the Sea Snake Empress died. Yang Dingtian looked at Naga as if he wanted to devour her. At this moment, Naga also rushed over in anger and questioned Yang Dingtian. "You? Why did you kill the Demon King?" Yang Dingtian said coldly, "If I don't kill him, am I going to wait for him to extract my soul and turn me into a walking corpse? Great Naga, Dugu Schwanger?" Yang Dingtian had never spoken to Dugu Schwanger in such a tone. Never. Naga's greed and anger towards energy calmed down all of a sudden. "What do you mean?" Naga Shuang said slowly. "Yang Dingtian, it means literally. If I didn't kill the Demon King, I would have become a walking corpse long ago. Of course, this is a good result for you. The Demon King can possess me and then fly away with you." As soon as he said this, the lower half of Naga Shuang's body suddenly turned into a snake's tail and fiercely whipped the ground. She jumped up and hissed, "Yang Ding, what do you mean by that?" "Yang Dingnan, isn't that so? The Demon King proposed a deal. Aren't you willing to accept it?" Naga Shuang hissed, "Nonsense, you're talking nonsense. I was just tricking him to hand over the primordial evil spirit." "Yang Dingen, and then? After you devoured the primordial evil spirit, you flew away without a trace. Didn't you give me to the Demon King and let him destroy my soul and turn me into a walking corpse?" Naga Shuang screamed, "I just lost my mind." The two primordial evil spirits merged into one. The energy was too great and temporarily destroyed my mind. "Yang Dingtian, then when you took back the primordial evil spirit, you could have immediately turned hostile and destroyed the Demon King's Chaos Emperor armor. Then I would have killed him. Not only did you not do that, but you also disappeared without a trace. When I killed him, you came to question me? From that point of view, you were already standing with him." Naga Shuang said angrily, "I did it for you." "For me? Yang Dingtan, I didn't see it at all." Naga Shuang said, "Of course I did it for you. He kept saying that he wanted to possess you. Why can't you take away all his cultivation? We can strip the Demon King's second-class evil spirit, then completely destroy his soul and turn him into a walking corpse. Then, in the Empire of Darkness, we can use the refining and fusion arrays to merge you and the Demon King's body into one. In this way, you will have the Chaos Emperor armor and all of the Demon King's cultivation." At this point, Naga Shuang trembled with excitement. "At that time, your cultivation will not be inferior to mine. We will go to the ruins of the old Naga Empire and become an eternal team. We will devour the energy of the old Naga Empire together and break through to the demigod realm. At that time, the two of us will be the Naga Empire. We will pass down the demigod civilization forever and become the masters of the entire chaos world." Yang Dingtian was surprised. Naga Shuanger's plan seemed to be feasible purely in theory. In this way, after stripping the Demon King's second-class evil spirit and destroying his soul, they would not destroy his Chaos Emperor armor and let Yang Dingtian have all of his cultivation. Yang Dingtian felt dizzy. This was a cultivation close to the demigod realm. In terms of cultivation level, it was even higher than Naga Shuang's. Anyone would be tempted. Even Vulture was tempted. If her husband broke through to the demigod realm, she would be able to rise as well. Yang Dingtian's dizziness only lasted for a short time. He quickly calmed down. Yang Dingtian said slowly, "The Demon King's cultivation level is even higher than yours. How are you going to destroy his soul? Moreover, his second-class evil spirit came from Dongli, but Dongli is long dead. His first-class evil spirit also dissipated in the abyss. How are you going to strip the second-class evil spirit from the Demon King's body?" Naga Shuang's face twitched. She said stubbornly, "As long as you give me time, I can do it." Yang Dingtan said, "Good. Let's talk about the situation just now. After devouring the evil spirit, you didn't immediately disappear without a trace. At that time, the Demon King proposed to destroy my soul and take over my body. What would you do? Naga Shuang said, Of course, I would stop him. Yang Dingun said, Then, you would fall out with the Demon King and continue to fight? Naga Shuang shook her head. No, I would take you away. Yang Dingtian said, In other words, you would let the Demon King go. Then, you would let him wreak havoc in the human kingdoms, let him open the door to the human kingdoms, and let the Demon Fox army completely submerge and destroy the human kingdoms. Let the Demon King capture all my wives and children? Naga Shuang was silent, indicating that she agreed. Yang Dingun said word by word, Those are my wives, my children. Naga Shuang was still silent. She just looked at Yang Dingtian. Yang Dingtian said word by word again, At that time, they will be captured, tortured, or even killed. There might even be your beloved Dabao, Yang Li. Naga Shuang was still silent. Say something, Yang Dingtian said coldly. Even so, are you still going to let the Demon King go? Naga Shuang's beautiful face twitched slightly. Her beautiful eyes flashed with dignity and anger. She said, So what? What do these people have to do with me? Although Yang Dingtian was mentally prepared, he was still shocked by these words. Then he said in disbelief, They are my family, my children? Yes, what do they have to do with me? Naga Shuang said, I'm just related to you. Do you want me to drag any Tom, Dick, or Harry into this? Moreover, I want to help you break through the demigod realm and become the master of this world. What can't these dust, branches, and leaves be abandoned? Suddenly Yang Dingtian stopped talking. He was completely speechless, because the worldviews of the two sides were completely different. Taking a deep breath, Yang Dingtian said, Duga Shuang, so your plan is to first trick the Demon King into giving up the original evil spirit. Then you will let him go. When you can strip his second-class evil spirit, when your cultivation can suppress it, you will deal with him. Destroy his soul and let me take over his demigod cultivation, right? Naga Shuang said, Everything I do is for you. Yang Dingyan said, What if you can't strip his second-class evil spirit? Naga Shuang said, Impossible. When I break through the demigod realm, I can do anything. Yang Dingtian said, There are still a few decades before you break through the demigod realm. You're a force-type Naga, you'll definitely be in heat if you can't get it. If you don't copulate, you will cause great harm. Can you wait until the day you become a demigod? Naga Shuang said coldly, What are you trying to say? Yang Dingun said, Now you can say that you let go of the Demon King for me. But you are getting closer and closer to the time when you go into heat. When you can't bear the great harm, you still haven't found a way to strip the second-class evil spirit and destroy the Demon King's soul. At that time, you will follow the Demon King's plan. Choose the easy way. Destroy my soul and turn me into a walking corpse. Then the Demon King will take over my body, have sex with you, and fly away together. That will be the best of both worlds. Then Yang Dingtan said word by word, So, your plan is not for me at all. It is to stall for time so that you can feel at ease and righteous. Wait for the balance of energy in your heart to exceed the balance of feelings. I didn't. Naga suddenly roared. Her beautiful face suddenly changed. Naga's ferocious face directly appeared, and then changed back to the beautiful face of a human. Then, Naga calmed herself down and said, Husband, I really didn't think so. I stopped attacking the Demon King really for you. Yang Dingtian shook his head and said, No, maybe your thoughts at that time and now don't think so. But in the depths of your soul, you have already made such preparations. So, after devouring the primordial evil spirit, you lost your mind and flew away without a trace. That in itself is a kind of seeking release, letting reality decide everything. On the surface, you have lost all reason. But in reality, you want to create an established fact, let the Demon King destroy my soul and take over my body. Then you will have no choice but to accept. I didn't. Naga Shuang roared and hissed, You are slandering me, slandering me. In her fury, Naga suddenly transformed into a huge Naga hundreds of meters long. Then she suddenly opened her mouth and was about to bite Yang Dingtian in half. Of course, she didn't bite down. Then, she gradually changed back to the human appearance of Dugu Shuang. She first closed her beautiful eyes and calmed herself down. When she opened them again, her beautiful face had already become ice cold. She said word by word, "Husband, I will still call you that. First, don't put a groundless accusation on my head. Second, between you and me, you don't have any moral advantage. Don't forget, you can't destroy the Demon King, you can't stop the Demon King's invasion. So, let me help you. I don't owe you anything. I can come because of my feelings for you. I love you, so I came to help you, but I don't owe you. So, no matter what decision I make, it's my own business." At this moment, Naga Shuang said these words as if she had matured by many years. Naga Shuang said, "It's true that I love you. However, you don't have the right to criticize me or order me because of this. You have your position, and I have my pursuit. Second, I know that you blame the death of the Sea Snake Empress on me. I can only say one thing about this. Don't use your own incompetence as evidence to blame me. She died for you, not for me. You have the responsibility to save her, I don't." Word by word, clear and cold, the logic concise to the extreme. Chapter 1137. Hearing Naga Shuang's cold words, Yang Dingtian gradually woke up from his extreme anger. Putting aside all emotional factors, Naga Shuang was right. Of course, Naga Shuang was part of the reason for the death of the Sea Snake Empress, but in the end, it was still his fault. She died for him. Also, what did Naga Shuang owe Yang Dingtian? Yang Dingtian had indeed protected her and taken care of her. However, Naga Shuang had saved Yang Dingtian once when he was in the Empire of Darkness. Even though that time had also allowed her to undergo the most critical transformation. However, if Naga Shuang had not snatched away the primordial evil spirit at the critical moment, Yang Dingtian would have been possessed by the Demon King. And this time, Yang Dingtian had traveled hundreds of thousands of miles to the ruins of the old Naga Empire to find Naga Shuang to help him deal with the Demon King. She was playing the role of a savior. Although these words sounded cold, they were reasonable. Naga Shuang had no obligation to help Yang Dingtian. What she did was her own freedom. For many things, once emotions were torn apart, they would become completely cold. This was the same logic. Then, let's not talk about feelings at all. Only talk about benefits, not feelings. Yang Dingtian, who had gradually calmed down, closed his eyes and restrained the anger inside. When he opened his eyes again, he had calmed down and said, "Shuang, you're right. I have no right to criticize you. The death of the Sea Snake Empress is my responsibility, not yours." Then, Yang Dingtian said, "This time, I still have to thank you for successfully eliminating the Demon King. Without you, I would have been destroyed by the Demon King long ago." Naga Shuang's beautiful face twitched slightly, but she did not say anything. Yang Dingtian said, "Please wait for a day or two. I will send you back to the ruins of the old Naga Empire as soon as possible to continue cultivating." Naga Shuang remained cold and silent. Yang Dingtian asked, "Vulture, where is the Demon King's soul?" After the Demon King's body turned into ashes, his soul was still frantically escaping under the protection of the primordial evil spirit. However, how could he escape? Vulture could even control the elements and energy, let alone the soul. Moreover, at this moment, both Soul and Wendian's soul had lost all their cultivation. How could they escape from Vulture's spiritual domain? "I've locked it," said Vulture. The spirit Vulture's mind stirred, and immediately, a burst of light and shadow flew over. Several souls' soul was a soul was souls'. There was Earth's, Wentian's, Chaos World's, and Su Yan's. And the strange thing was that these three souls were completely wrapped in one soul. And this soul was Shimenwia's. He was indeed powerful. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. As expected, he had completely gained control of the Demon King's body. Although the other three souls were still there, they were completely wrapped by him. It turned out that the so-called battle of the soul and the battle of the brain was like this. Not only did it have to occupy the largest area of the brain, but it also had to completely wrap the other party's soul and devour it. Seeing Yang Dingtian again, Shimen Wuya's soul immediately opened his mouth and was about to speak. Yang Dingtian waved his hand and said, "I don't want to hear him speak. Just destroy it." Vulture moved his mind, and Shimen Wuya's Demon King's soul immediately flew toward the border of the abyss like lightning. He screamed and screamed with all his might. However, he was completely blocked and could not make a sound. Whoosh! Soon, Vulture controlled the Demon King's soul and arrived at the bottom of the abyss's border. Without any buffer, he was directly thrown into the abyss's border. Wenin, Su Yen, Shimen Wuya, and the other souls opened their mouths and let out a silent hiss. Then, at the border of the abyss, they turned into ashes inch by inch. They completely disappeared without a trace. From then on, there was no real Demon King in this world. And Shimen Wuya, who was almost the final victor, also completely died and turned into ashes when he was at his proudest and most glorious moment. It didn't matter how much patience he had, or how much perseverance he had, it had all been destroyed. The mission this time was over. The Demon King was completely destroyed. Yang Dingtian looked in the direction of the dark crack. It had long disappeared. Yang Dingtian wanted to feel the air again to see if there was the aura of the Sea Snake Empress, but it was completely gone. There was only the aura of the dark domain. Of course, there was also a high concentration of Xian Qi. The explosion of the Demon King's energy reserve caused the concentration of the entire first dark domain to increase by several times. "Husband, I'm sorry. I couldn't save the Sea Snake Empress?" Vulture stepped forward and whispered. Yang Dinghan shook his head and said, "No, you're very amazing. She died because of me." Then Yang Dinghan said, "Let's go back." Then Yang Dingtian, Vulture, and Naga Shuang silently flew towards the human countries. From the border of the first abyss, they entered the world of ice and snow. Then they flew back to Cloud Sky City. This time, Naga Dugu Shuang followed them to Cloud Sky City. At this moment, everyone in Cloud Sky City was already waiting. Jia, the Demon Fox High Priest, all the surviving elders of the Silver Dragon Temple, all the higher-ups of the Council of Light, and Queen Poisa. Of course, there was also Yang Dingtian's wife and children. There was also his mother-in-law, Yang Peipei, his master, Dongfang Minmi, and everyone else. Seeing Yang Dingtian return, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. This at least proved that Yang Dingtian was fine. Yang Dinghan stepped forward and said, "The Demon King is dead." As soon as he said this, countless people cheered. The Demon King was dead. The greatest crisis had been resolved. It could even be said that the war in the human countries had completely ended. The calamity of the human countries would not come again. The human countries were saved. Yang Dinghan came in front of Poisa and said in a low voice, "I'm sorry. The Sea Snake Empress died to save me." Instantly, Poisa's delicate body trembled. She was at a loss for what to do. She didn't know what expression to use to welcome this news. She definitely wouldn't cry. She had always appeared cold and lonely, but her heart was pure and full of dependence in a certain aspect. After a long while, Poisa revealed a slightly sad smile and said, "As long as you're fine, it's fine." Yang Dingtian hesitated for a while and said, "When I go to the Little Western Paradise, I will try my best to find Hai Exen and bring her here." Originally, Hai Exen was bound to die. However, now that the Sea Snake Empress was dead, her greatest wish was to revive the people of the Sea Serpent Empire and not let the Sea Serpent Empire be completely destroyed. And Hai Exen was also her daughter. Now, Yang Dingtian could no longer bear to kill Hai Exen. Poisa nodded. Then Yang Dingtian came in front of Yanyan. Her delicate face was filled with infinite joy as she said, "Husband, from now on, we can stay at home. We don't have to run around and hide anymore, right?" Yang Dinghan smiled and said, "Yes." Then his gaze fell on Yang Yichen's face and said, "Of course, in the future, Yang Yichen will have the final say in Cloud Sky City. We need his permission to live here." Instantly, Yang Yichen was so embarrassed that his face turned red and he couldn't speak. He couldn't wait for his family to be together forever. Then, Yanyan suddenly said, "Husband, what's wrong?" "I'm fine," Yang Dingtian said in surprise. Yanyan said, "I feel that your smile is a little forced." Yang Dingtian said, "The biggest opponent in your life has been eliminated. Of course, you'll feel lost." "I see," Yanyan said. "In the future, you can stay at home and accompany us more." "Sai, if father could see us like this, how good would that be?" Yang Dinghan didn't stop and said, "Father-in-law would be happy even if he saw this scene from heaven." That night, the entire Cloud Sky City was truly immersed in a carnival. Naga Shuang definitely wouldn't participate. She directly returned to the cave in Cloud Sky City that she had taken shelter in. He was proud and lonely. After drinking a lot of wine, Yang Dingtian saw Vulture playing with Yen Yen, Wu Maji, and the others. She was always like this, forming cliques and trying her best to raise her status. When she saw Yang Dingtian looking over, she nodded like a spoiled child. Yang Dingtian understood what she meant. She wouldn't say it. He would treat the matter of Shimin Wuya as an eternal secret. Yang Dingtian took the porcelain wine bottle and walked out. His master, Dongfang Minmi, also followed. The two of them floated lightly and arrived at the highest point of the castle. Yang Dinghan asked, "Master, who was the one who attacked you, destroyed your cultivation, and locked you up in this world of ice and snow? Do you still remember?" Dongfang Minmi took a sip of wine and said, "I have a slight impression, but I can't remember clearly." Then, Dongfang Minmi said, "But this isn't important anymore, right?" Yang Dinghan nodded and said, "Yes, it's not important. Everything is in the past." Dongfang Minmi said, "Then I'll go back and continue drinking." Yang Dingtian nodded and sat at the top of the castle. He began to absorb qi to recover his battle qi. Under the control of his will, his Chaos Emperor-grade soul sword also began to absorb qi. The next morning, Yang Dingtian led the Demon Fox High Priest and all the High Priests of the Silver Dragon Temple out of Cloud Sky City and flew toward the Yin-Yang Mirror. In the Yin-Yang Mirror, they opened a spatial door and jumped into the torn space. Then, they flew tens of thousands of miles in the torn space. They arrived at the intersection of Mount Buzhou and the torn space. Here, Yang Dingtian opened a spatial door and led all the high priests of the Silver Dragon Temple into Mount Buzhou. Immediately, many high priests cried tears of joy. After nearly half a year, they finally returned to Mount Buzhou. However, the number of people was reduced by nearly half. The entire Mount Buzhou seemed to be the same. Yang Dingtian led the members of the High Priest Association to the Snow Mountain Castle and destroyed the energy door again. This way, the evil spirit army that was loyal to the Demon King would never be able to enter again. "We'll go with you," the Demon Fox High Priest said. "No need," Yang Dingtian said. "The Demon King is already dead. I'm not afraid of the remaining evil spirit warriors." "Vulture, come in," Yang Dingtian said. Vulture immediately entered Yang Dingtian's spatial ring. Yang Dingtian opened a spatial door on the energy wall between the Little Western Paradise and the Snow Mountain Castle. The Demon Fox High Priest suddenly said, "Why didn't you let Naga come with you? She's so powerful and has the primordial evil spirit. Destroying the Demon King's evil spirit army will be easy." Yes, it would be easy. However, the relationship between Naga and Yang Dingtian was completely different now. Most importantly, she was probably very unwilling to enter Yang Dingtian's spatial ring now. Yang Dingtian shook his head and didn't say anything. Then, he jumped out of the spatial door and entered the Little Western Paradise. After flying for a few thousand miles. Along the way, the Little Western Paradise didn't seem to be any different. However, the biggest difference from before was that it was completely silent and lifeless. Occasionally, many slogans could be seen in many cities. It said, "Long live the Silver Dragon Temple. Long live President Su Yen. Long live the Demon Fox race." Of course, there were even more extreme ones. For example, the race was superior. Destroy the human race. Occupy the human countries and the Demon Fox race ruled the world. and so on and so forth. In less than half a year, the Demon King had brainwashed the entire Little Western Paradise. Naked and the theory of the extinction of the human race had already become the mainstream of the Little Western Paradise. It was easy to open the door of racism, but it was difficult to completely close it. Yang Dingtian flew to an agreed location. This place was in the middle of two huge mountains, and there was a vast sea everywhere. This was the place where Yang Dingtian and the Dark Wanderer had agreed to meet. Yang Dingtian took out an energy crystal and squeezed it. Bang! The energy crystal burst out with an incomparably bright light. Yang Dingtian didn't know if the Dark Wanderer was lured and controlled by the Demon King. He just tried to squeeze the energy crystal. After a few minutes, the surroundings were extremely quiet. Yang Dingtian sighed in his heart. It seemed that the Dark Wanderer had completely become the Demon King's claws. He continued to fly forward. At this moment, dozens of figures suddenly rushed out from the bottom of the sea. All the Dark Wanderers were there, and the leader was Miju. When he saw Yang Dingtian for the first time, Miju was ecstatic and said, "Yang Dinghan, are you okay?" Yang Dinghan said, "I'm fine. What about you guys?" Miju said, "President Su Yen has fallen. He has already controlled the entire Little Western Paradise. We had to hide in the energy barrier of the deep sea to avoid his search." Yang Dingtan said, "I know. That's not President Su Yen. He was possessed by the Demon King." The two of them merged into one and became a peerless powerhouse close to a demigod. Miju was surprised, but that was all. They were Dark Wanderers and didn't care about other things. Then he said excitedly, "Now that you're here, let's go to the Dark World to enjoy ourselves. It's been more than half a year, and it's really hard for us. Last time in the Dark Rift, we were afraid of Su Yen and didn't dare to appear." Yang Dinghan said, "All right, follow me to the Skull Hall." Now, the Fox race's millions of troops were outside the Skull Hall. As for the saints and half-saints of the evil spirits, they were all in the Skull Hall. Yang Dingtian wanted to go in and kill all the evil spirit warriors. Then, he would bring Dishi Bian, Queen Hai Xian, Wolingzi, and the others back to the human world. I worked until almost 10 o'clock before I started writing, so it's still one chapter today. Tomorrow, it will definitely be 2 chapters. Chapter 1138. Was it easy to end the battle in the Skull Hall? It was easy to say, but it was not easy to say. The first thing to do was to observe the enemy's situation. Yang Dingtian and the Dark Wanderer flew toward the Skull Hall. When they were still a few hundred miles away from the Skull Hall, they saw the densely packed Fox army in the sky. At this moment, even though they were in the air, they were still full of fighting spirit. Moreover, the flags flying in the army were filled with the words, "Long live the Silver Dragon Temple. Long live Leader Su Yen. Destroy the inferior races." There were fanatical slogans like that. Yang Dingtian couldn't help but frown when he saw all of this. Fanatical racism was really like a demon. Once it was released, blood would definitely flow like a river. And the Nazi Germany and the Sun Empire of Japan were all fanatics. They brainwashed countless people and brought a huge disaster to the entire world. Although the Demon King was dead now, it would take many years to eliminate the influence of fanatical racism in Little Western Paradise. Moreover, before this fanatical atmosphere was eliminated, Yang Dingtian would definitely not let the Fox demons enter the human countries. Looking at the millions of troops floating in the air, Yang Dingtian suddenly had a scene of hundreds of thousands of heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals attacking Sun Wukong in Journey to the West. He immediately hid his figure. After passing through the millions of Fox demons, he arrived at the Skull Hall. At this moment, the door of the Little Western Paradise in the Skull Hall was always open. Yang Dingtian hid himself and looked at the door of the Skull Hall. He didn't enter immediately because Dishi Bian and Wolingzi both had the Netherworld Ghost Fire. Yang Dingtian's invisibility could only be seen through by the undead. However, Yang Dingtian couldn't guarantee that Dishi Bian and Wolingzi, who had the Netherworld Ghost Fire, wouldn't be able to see through it. Therefore, he could only flash at the door and take a look. It was as he had expected. The situation in the Skull Hall wasn't very good, but it wasn't very bad either. Dozens of Saint-level evil spirit martial artists were inside. There were also over 200 half-sage evil spirit warriors. Although Yang Dingtian's cultivation had already reached the 24th level, he was still bound to lose or even die in the face of dozens of Saint-level powerhouses. Fortunately, he had a soul sword that was close to the level of a demigod. In that case, it would be much easier to eliminate these evil spirit warriors. Using the Darkness Mystic Fire Soul Sword Soul, he could directly destroy the sea of chi of a dozen or so saint-level evil spirit martial artists and make their sea of chi explode. The power of the self-destruction of more than a dozen martial saints was extremely shocking. Even a martial saint would not be able to withstand it. At this time, the remaining saint and half-saint evil spirit martial artists would also be blown to smithereens. But because of the evil spirit energy, they would recover very quickly. Yang Dingtian repeated the process again, destroying the chi seas of more than a dozen martial saints. After repeating this a few times, basically all of the saints were finished. Of course, during the whole process, Yang Dingtian was invisible and used the sword soul to fight. It was a pity that not everyone in the Skull Hall was an evil spirit warrior. Naru, Demon's Wrath II, and Queen Hyxen were also inside. The three of them didn't have any evil spirit energy. Once the sea of chi of more than a dozen evil spirit martial artists exploded, their lives would also be in danger. Especially Hyxen, she would definitely die. Then he needed to take Naru, Demon's Wrath II, and Queen Hyxen away from the Skull Hall before the battle started. Was there any way to make all the non-evil spirit martial artists leave the Skull Hall? Yang Dingtian thought for a while. He immediately had a plan. He left the Skull Hall and flew towards the place where the Dark Wanderer was hiding. When he arrived, he summoned the Dark Wanderer again. Yang Dingtian said, "Your Excellency Mi Zhu, I need you to bring the Saint-level Dark Wanderer into the Skull Hall and bring out all the non-evil spirit martial artists, including Demon's Wrath II, Naru, and Queen Hyxen." Mi Zhu didn't say anything else and was about to go. Yang Dingtian said, "I haven't told you what to do yet." Mi Zhu said, "Tell me." Yang Dingtian said, "Just say that because of the blooming of the Dark Rift, you guys appeared again, so you are also loyal to the Demon King. The Demon King and Devil Queen will enter the first Dark Realm through the Dark Rift and fight with Yang Dingtian." Yang Dingtian told Mi Zhu the entire plan word by word. Mi Zhu memorized every word, then nodded and said, "I understand." Yang Dingtian handed over a token and said, "This is the Devil Queen's token. Show it to them and they will believe you." Mi Zhu took it and was about to fly towards the Skull Hall with the Saint-level Dark Wanderer. Suddenly Yang Dingtian asked, "Mi Zhu, the Demon King also has void-rending fire. Why didn't you choose to be loyal to him? He is much stronger than me. Why are you willing to help me instead of being loyal to him?" Mi Zhu was silent for a long time before saying, "You said it yourself. Helping you means being loyal to him. Helping and pledging loyalty were two different things. Although we are dark wanderers, after hundreds of years of wandering, we have also become wild. We are used to being free and undisciplined. The last thing we want is to be someone's dog. If we were to be loyal to the Demon King, we would definitely be a dog." Then Mi Zhu smiled sadly and said, "Actually, we are not afraid of death, so there is no need to choose a side. We know very well that you feel pity for us lonely souls." After saying that, Mi Zhu flew towards the Skull Hall with the Saint-level Dark Wanderer. Yang Dingtian fell silent. Because these Dark Wanderers had devoured the dark energy, their minds had become extremely inferior, pure, weak, and sensitive. Therefore, they could indeed see the state of mind of others at a glance. Speaking of which, if Su Yan was like Mi Zhu and fell for a long time, his soul might be stronger. Because the situation could not be worse. He had nothing left. Because he had once defeated the dark energy, when he fell again, his soul instantly collapsed. Therefore, eternal separation Wenyan took advantage of the opportunity to fall into the bottomless abyss. Mi Zhu quickly flew out of the Skull Hall with the Saint-level Dark Wanderer. Immediately, Thousands of people from the Fox army flew out like lightning and surrounded Mi Zhu and the others. Mi Zhu directly took out the Queen Devil Queen's token and said, "We are the Dark Wanderers. We are under the orders of the second leader of the Doomsday Committee to enter the Skull Hall and announce a new decree." That's right, the Queen Devil Queen's current identity in Little Western Paradise was the second in command of the Doomsday Committee and the vice president of the Silver Dragon Temple. The leader of the Fox army took a look at the token. It was indeed the token of the vice leader of Piaoling. He waved his hand lightly and let them all pass. Mi Zhu brought the Dark Wanderers and flew directly into the Skull Hall. At this moment, all the Saint-level and half-Saint-level powerhouses were sitting cross-legged in the Skull Hall. Hundreds of people filled the huge ground. At this moment, they were waiting for the door to the human kingdom to open. Once it opened, they would surge into the human kingdom. They were anxious, but they were not worried at all. As long as the time was up, the door to the human kingdom would definitely open. None of the evil spirit warriors doubted that the Demon King would obtain victory and destroy Yang Dingtian. Of course, a day had already passed since the battle between the Demon King and Yang Dingtian. The door to the human kingdom should have opened long ago. Why hadn't it opened yet? Seeing Mi Zhu and the others enter, Wolingzi, Dishi Bian, Demon Rage 2, and the others opened their eyes to take a look. Mi Zhu once again raised the Queen Devil Queen's token and said, "Under the orders of President Piao Ling, all non-saint-level evil spirit warriors in the Skull Hall are to evacuate. Also, send 10 saint-level powerhouses back to Mount Buzhou." The moment these words came out, all the evil spirit warriors were stunned. With the Queen Devil Queen not around, Dishi Bian was the leader of all the evil spirit warriors. He immediately asked coldly, "Since when did you Dark Wanderers pledge allegiance to His Majesty? His Majesty has been looking for you for a long time." Mi Zhu said, "When the dark crack opens, it is time for us to eat. Of course, we will appear." Needless to say, everyone present believed it. They felt that this group of Dark Wanderers had no moral integrity. As long as there was dark energy to devour, they would betray Yang Dingtian and pledge allegiance to the Demon King. Dishi Bian said, "Then why do you want all non-saint-level evil spirit warriors to leave the Skull Hall? Why do you want 10 saint-level powerhouses to return to Mount Buzhou?" Demon Rage 2 said, "Over at the Dark Realm, how is the battle between His Majesty and Yang Dingtian?" Mi Zhu said, "His Majesty won, but Yang Dingtian is safe and sound." The moment these words came out, everyone present was shocked. How could Yang Dingtian be safe and sound? His Majesty the Demon King's cultivation was close to that of a demigod. Mi Zhu said, "Yang Dingtian invited 2 helpers. One is the soul of the ancient sea snake empress, and the other is a completely transformed Naga Dugushuang." The moment these words came out, everyone was shocked. Yang Dingtian had indeed come to Naga. Only Dishi Bian was not very surprised, because the Demon King had said to prepare for the worst. Mi Zhu said, "Now, His Majesty the Demon King and the Devil Queen have entered the human countries. Naga and the Sea Snake Empress have also entered the human countries together, and the 2 sides have fought again. His Majesty Piao Ling asked me to pass through the dark crack at the last moment. He will report back." At this time, Mi Zhu simply called them Demon King and Devil Queen. In any case, the entire Skull Hall was basically filled with evil spirit warriors. Dishi Bian fell silent. Mi Zhu said, "The Demon King and the Devil Queen will definitely come to the Taboo Continent's sea area soon and open the door to the human countries. However, Naga is undying and will definitely follow. Furthermore, there is the ancient Sea Snake Empress, who is also close to becoming a demigod. Once the door to the human countries opens and all of our experts swarm out, we will definitely be slaughtered by Naga and the Sea Snake Empress. Therefore, Her Majesty the Devil Queen gave me the token and asked me to pass on the order to withdraw all non-evil spirit warriors from the Skull Hall, lest they be slaughtered by Naga and unable to revive." Dishi Bian said, "Then when will the door to the human countries open?" Mi Zhu calculated for a while and said, "There are still 3.5 hours." The moment these words came out, everyone present nodded. The door to the human countries should have opened long ago. So this was the reason why it had not opened until now. It turned out that they were waiting for Miju to pass on the order for all non-evil spirit warriors to leave. Now it made sense. Dishibien said, "Then why do you want another 10 saint-level experts to retreat to Mount Buzhou?" Miju said, "Her Majesty the Devil Queen is worried that Yang Dingtian will return to Mount Buzhou with the people of the Silver Dragon Temple through the spatial door." Dishibien nodded. It made sense. Then she directly ordered, "Wolingzi, lead 10 saint-level punishers and all non-evil spirit warriors to leave the Skull Hall and return to Mount Buzhou." Wolingzi stood up and said, "Yes." Then he pointed out 9 saint-level evil spirit warriors. There were also 3 non-evil spirit warriors: Demon Rage 2, President Naru, and Queen Hai Xan. Including Wolingzi, there were a total of 13 people. Dishibien said, "There are many members of the High Priest Association who were rescued by Yang Dingtian. Is 10 saint-level punishers enough?" Miju said, "And all of our Dark Wanderers will stay behind to guard Mount Buzhou." Dishibien nodded, then said to Naru and Demon Rage 2, "The 2 of you are smart enough to know what to do. You should also know that even if Yang Dingtian has Naga on his side now, it won't change anything." Demon Rage 2 nodded. Wolingzi said, and the 13 people and Miju's Dark Wanderers all left the Skull Hall. There was only one kind of people in the entire hall now, and that was the evil spirit warriors. Dozens of saint level and hundreds of half-saint level. They were waiting for Yang Dingtian to come and catch them all in one fell swoop. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.